Chronicles of the Stellar Mecha War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 Card Upgrade. After Wang Fengfeng came back, he posted a circle of friends overnight and added a bunch of people to like his post. Lin Fan was woken up from her sleep. She took a dazed look and felt that he did not go to the observatory to see the stars, but like her, he really went to the sky. She clicked the like button casually, threw the phone aside, and fell asleep again. This wave of space fever has not ended after a month. In mid-August, the cicadas could not stand the heat, but the number of visitors to the planetarium increased. Wang Fengfeng showed Lin Fan the news on his phone. Didn't you say it would subside in a month or two? Look, it's even worse. Lin Fan was speechless. She said 1 or 2 months was just an approximate number, not really 1 or 2 months. This time can be 1 or 2 months, or 3 or 4 months. The key point is that after a period of time, it will eventually calm down. As usual, John Woo chimed in. Why are you in such a hurry? Isn't summer vacation coming? Parents are taking their kids out to play. Wait until the end of the month, when the little beasts go to school. You'll see. When we go there, it's already mid-July, so they've already had their vacation. Wang Fengfeng is not Lin Fan, and he can shut him up with just a few words. Yes, Lin Fan echoed beside him, not realizing that Wu Yusen was speaking for her. Summer vacation starts in July, and those college entrance examination candidates have their vacation in early June. That's right. Wang Fengfeng bared his teeth at Wu Yusen proudly. Are you stupid? Wu Yusen looked at the silly girl who was diverted by Wang Fengfeng and said helplessly, the space shuttle hadn't returned yet, so what's the point of having a vacation? That's right. Lin Fan scratched his head with a little embarrassment, then reacted and glared at Wang Fengfeng, who was deliberately grinning. Look at those crazes on the internet, which one can last long. Most of those who are interested in these are young people and children. Wu Yusen continued. When the children go to school, young people will soon be distracted by other emerging things. In the end, those who can still maintain their enthusiasm for this. He shook his head slowly and didn't finish. But no matter what, it's better to have this wave than not, right? Lin Fan didn't want him to be so pessimistic. The big waves wash away the sand, and those who can stay are gold. Isn't this better? Only by running towards the goal in your heart and swervingly can you go a long way. Those who easily change their goals are like the monkeys in fairy tales who keep picking up things and throwing them away. In the end, they will have nothing. Wu Yusen was a little surprised and relieved to hear Lin Fan say this. I find that your perspective seems to have begun to change. Wang Fengfeng was also surprised. After getting along for so long, Lin Fan herself is still a little pessimistic, and she will show some inferiority from time to time. This is the first time I see her evaluate something so optimistically. Really? Lin Fan didn't notice it. She just didn't want Wu Yusen to be too pessimistic. It was a kind of consolation. I didn't expect it to have such an effect. No wonder people used to like to use worse examples to comfort others. Although she didn't think that was useful, feeling good about herself from other people's misery, it was strange, no matter how you looked at it, right? But today's behavior was indeed a bit unusual. She was going to ask Jin Sichin about it. Before she could ask Jin Sichin, Zaohe's message arrived first. Wu Yusen said to Lin Fan with his mobile phone, his card has been upgraded. Really? Wang Fengfeng slammed the table first. Then what's the situation now? Can Xingchen be included? I don't know. He asked us to go out and talk. Wu Yusen replied to the message and shook his phone. Why doesn't he come over? Wang Fengfeng still wanted to watch the live broadcast. He is about to be a senior high school student, and his family won't let him go out for a long time. Wu Yusen replied, he lives too far from the institute. It's not convenient. Okay, Wang Fengfeng was disappointed, but you won't be able to get started right away when you go out, so remember to call me when you come back to do the formal operation. Wu Yusen nodded and then said to Lin Fan, I've made an appointment to meet at a shopping mall near his home in 2 hours. We'll sit for a while and then leave. Lin Fan had no objection. She still had a deep impression of that kid Zaohe. In addition, with the cards that could write stars, she was more impatient than Wu Yusen. The weather in August was really hot. Lin Fan saw that the steam rising from the road made the traffic in front of her begin to distort, and she always had the illusion that the tires would be burned. When the silly boy Zaohe knew that they were almost there, he ran to the roadside outside the shopping mall to wait. Lin Fan saw him from a distance. Standing in the scorching sun, there was not even a shade around. His originally fair face was sunburned red, and sweat was pouring down. Wu Yusen also saw it, and quickly pulled over to the side of the road, and put Lin Fan down. You go in first, I'll park the car and find you. Okay. Lin Fan quickly closed the car door, called Zaohe, who looked happy, and ran to the main entrance of the mall. Until entering the mall, the cool breeze made goosebumps appear. Lin Fan quickly took out a tissue from his bag, and handed it to Zaohe. Wipe it quickly, why don't you wait inside? It's so hot to run out. Zaohe was much more familiar with Lin Fan last time and could talk, but he was still a little shy. He took Lin Fan's tissue, thanked him, and wiped it slowly. Lin Fan suddenly thought of Wang Fengfeng. That guy was pretending to be shy at the beginning. He was indeed ignorant and deceived. The cool air conditioning quickly forced the hot sweat back. Lin Fan was afraid that the child would catch a cold, so he didn't dare to let him continue to stand in the wind, and led people inside. I want to find a fast food restaurant or a cold drink shop to sit down and buy a drink for the child. This is a large shopping mall. Although it is not in the city center, it still has a large flow of customers. The layout is similar to that of ordinary shopping malls, with gold shops and cosmetics stores on the first floor. Lin Fan smelled the delicious smell and looked around, but he didn't see the red Ken's fast food restaurant or the yellow one. After asking Zaohe, he found out that the restaurant was at another entrance, on the other side of the mall. There were other cold drink shops, but they were all upstairs. Lin Fan thought about it. John Woo was still parking downstairs, so it was not good to walk too far. He asked Zaohe's opinion, and decided to cross the mall, and go to the other side to buy cold drinks. Zaohe led the way in front. Just after walking a few steps, the alarm suddenly rang. What's the sound? Fire alarm. Lin Fan looked around immediately, but did not see any obvious smoke. There were all kinds of fragrances in his nose, but he didn't smell any burnt smell. The people around were startled and looked around in panic, but they didn't know what to look at. Lin Fan wanted to go over to take a look following the ringing sound, but looking at Zaohe next to him, he gave up and stayed calm. Soon, the security guard came running over, shouting something in an unknown dialect. The people around him dispersed in a big circle. Lin Fan was left in the middle. She pulled it, and seemed to understand. She followed Zaohe, who was walking away from the security guard. What did they say? Before Zaohe could answer, a scream rang out. Robbery. Look, something's happening, right? Chapter 477 Strange Robbers. Filming. This was Lin Fan's first reaction. Robbery in a shopping mall is less likely to happen in China than winning the lottery jackpot. Basically, you can only see it in movies and TV shows. Why? Let's not talk about equipment management. It's impossible to scare people with a screwdriver when doing such a bad thing, right? In the early years, some people robbed electric bikes and bicycles on the roadside. There were also people who robbed pedestrians in some remote places. But the local response was quick and the public security was upgraded. Now it can't be said that it is 100% eliminated, but it is really rare to see such a situation. Not to mention in a large shopping mall with people coming and going. What's more, this is Gao. Gao is an international metropolis and an economic and trade port with a very high population density. Just look at the cars stuck on the road every day and the crowded people in the subway. Last week, Lin Fan queued for several hours to go to the planetarium. That was in a relatively remote mountain. Now it's in the downtown area, open all year round, in a large shopping mall with a lot of people. Robbery? Well, even if it is technically possible, how can these stupid guys get out of the crowded crowd? Just when Lin Fan thought of this, she saw a large number of people swarming out of the front, as if an ant nest was poked. Well, she ignored the nature of ordinary people to avoid disasters. But even so, it is useless. Just now, many security guards ran over with steel forks. Bang, bang. To heavy sounds of landing, two people in security uniforms fell to the ground and did not move. Lin Fan felt that she was probably unlucky today, otherwise why did everything go wrong? The remaining security guards changed their momentum and dared to surround them from a distance and loosely, not daring to move forward. And as the people inside forced them forward, they could only passively move outward slowly. The further out, the larger the encirclement, and the larger the gap exposed. Lin Fan could see the black mask on the robber's head from where he was standing. What is there to be afraid of? There are so many of you. Come together. Fork him. Why are you so scared? Lin Fan watched the security guard retreating and retreating, almost retreating into the crowd, and couldn't help complaining in her heart. However, the next second, she knew why the security guard retreated. The newly appeared robber was holding a black familiar looking thing in his hand, holding it horizontally facing forward. Is that a gun? Zaohi frowned. It looks like it, but it shouldn't be. Lin Fan was not sure. The control of firearms is very strict, and ordinary people shouldn't have guns. Even if they really got a gun, using it in this kind of situation. I always feel something is wrong. She looked at the security guard who had retreated in front of her and asked casually, "Hey, master, what did they rob? How many people are there?" The security guard was startled and really jumped up. He saw the boy and girl behind him who looked unafraid, and he felt that they were really brave, but he pushed the people back with his hands. There are 4 people who robbed the gold shop, and they have guns. Don't move forward. Back off, back off. Lin Fan avoided his arm and backed away with him, and Zaohi was also pulled back. Sister Lin, do you think their guns are fake? Zaohi kept his eyes on that place and asked without turning his head. I don't know. Lin Fan replied, but if it was me, I had a gun, and I wanted to rob a gold shop, wouldn't it be easier to go to a shop on the roadside or a place like Chenghuang Temple than in a shopping mall? Zaohi didn't understand, and looked back at her. Those places also have a certain amount of gold reserves, and there is a big road outside, so it's easy to run away. It's better than being crowded in a shopping mall, and being blocked like this, right? Lin Fan said. The security guard next to him was shocked when he heard it. Aren't you afraid at this time? You still have the mind to discuss this? He was still furious when he saw his colleague being thrown to the ground, and he wanted to go up with a fork stick, but when he saw the other party took out a gun, all the anger went out. Although his limbs are shaking uncontrollably now, he didn't turn around and run away, and was on guard in front of the crowd. This is his greatest stubbornness as a security guard. Lin Fan didn't know the psychological activities of the poor security guard, and continued to analyze with Zaohi. But I always feel that this is not reasonable. What's unreasonable? Zaohi was at the age of learning, with a strong desire for knowledge, and asked with a serious face. Look, in this situation, someone must have called the police, right? They can't run away with the gold. If they want to run away, they must have a car that is convenient to drive. But driving, think about the road conditions outside. Even at the temperature of the hot tires, there are still many cars outside. Even if the robbers get a car, with the road conditions in Gao, they can't run away like in the movies. At most, they will be blocked at 1 or 2 traffic lights. That makes sense. The security guard listened distractedly and nodded in agreement. Isn't this a desperate situation? Zaohi also felt something was wrong. Will they be so stupid? Can they successfully rob the gold shop if they are really stupid? Not necessarily. Lin Fan shook his head, or they can take hostages and ask for a helicopter. Will that work? Zaohi asked. Listening to the conversation between the two, the security guard began to doubt whether they were in the same group as the robbers. Otherwise, how come when all these strong men were scared, these two people stood in the middle without fear and were still discussing how to escape? It depends on the situation. The technical content of helicopters is relatively high. Even if they are given, someone must know how to fly it. Lin Fan shrugged. Helicopter driving skills are not popular. Even she can't do it. If the robbers can. So this robber can get a gun and fly a plane. What is he trying to do by running to such a crowded shopping mall to rob a gold shop? Is his brain broken? We just watch. The passionate teenager Zaohi was angry and wanted to rush up to destroy all evil forces. The security guard widened his eyes and stepped aside. These two people. Could it be that they want to join? Exclamation mark. Well, the situation is still under control now, and we don't need to intervene. Lin Fan remembered the previous lesson, and would not take everything on himself. Besides, professional matters should be handled by professionals. The police should be here soon. She saw Zaohe's hands in his trouser pockets, and the veins on his thin wrists were bulging. Think about the cards he held in his hand. Just take out any card and let the contents inside it out. It would be a piece of cake to deal with these robbers. But with so many people watching, will the logistics department of the Special Affairs Office scold them to death? Moreover, she always felt that this matter was weird. The robber seemed to want to attract people. Although the four people were wearing hoods, Lin Fan did not feel the sense of crisis that was about to break out, so they could not easily intervene. The main reason was that there were too many people. She gently tapped Zaohe's arm and asked him to look at the dense crowd around him, who were afraid but did not run away. Zaohe was surprised to find that there were so many fearless people surrounding him. Thinking of the confidentiality of the Special Affairs Office, he looked at Lin Fan's affirmative eyes. He slowly let go of the card in his hand and slowly pulled it out of his pocket. Lin Fan had heard the sound of sirens and running footsteps outside the mall. The police had arrived. But before they arrived at the scene, something unexpected happened. A child of about 7 or 8 rushed out from the crowd, passed through the gap between the security guards, and rushed towards the robbers holding the Ultraman model high. If Ultraman really appeared, it would be a big deal. Chapter 478 Action. The irresponsible parent screamed and rushed forward, but was stopped by the security guard who reacted. The ignorant child didn't know what fear was. Holding the Ultraman figurine, he seemed to have real power. He had courage that most adults didn't have. He walked steadily to the middle of the open space step by step, crossed his hands at the robber with a gun, and made a gesture of launching a big move. The robber with a gun was stunned. There were still voices of sneer, abuse and blame in the crowd. For a moment, Lin Fan really wanted to see Zaohe's Ultraman card play a role. When the huge Ultraman figure appeared behind the child, with those who could only fight with their mouths closed their weapons. But this was just a thought. With her around, it was impossible for Zaohe to violate the rules. After the robber walking in front reacted, he seemed to feel insulted by the child and strode towards the child. The child's mother's crying became more and more sharp. Many people had a bad premonition and turned their heads away. Many people also raised their mobile phones to take pictures. Why haven't they come yet? Lin Fan looked anxiously outside the crowd. The dense footsteps were getting closer, but not fast enough. The robber was only a few meters away from the child, and it was too late to wait for help. In his peripheral vision, Zaohe could no longer hold back, and rushed forward 2 steps, his hand reaching into his pocket again. In an emergency, Lin Fan could not care less, and pulled Zaohe back, while at the same time taking the steel fork in the hand of the security guard next to him. He ran a few steps, and when the robber was about to touch the child, he used the steel fork to push him a few steps back. Then he rolled the child into his hand with as little force as possible, pinched his shoulders, and gently lifted his calf with his foot, and the child sat on the ground. Seeing that the muzzle of the gun of the robber moved, she rolled on the ground and pushed the child towards his mother with a strong force. Fortunately, the floor of the mall was smooth, and the child's pants did not have much friction on it. He was pushed into the crowd in a daze, and was caught by the security guard in time, and sent to his parents. All this was done within a few seconds. Everyone only saw a figure rushing out. Before they could react, the child was saved. Sister Lin. Zaohe saw the muzzle of the gun pointed at Lin Fan and shouted nervously. Seeing the muzzle of the gun turned around, people also whistled and flew up, and people in that direction quickly scattered. Lin Fan's reaction is not something that ordinary people can keep up with. To be proud, there are not many people who can get shot by her. If you can't reach the level of John Woo and Song Ren, don't even think about it. This half-time robber should be impossible. Although it feels that he is full of weirdness and shouldn't shoot, it's not a big deal. Lin Fan jumped several times and quickly approached the gunman with agile actions. Although the other side predicted Lin Fan's movements and retreated continuously, it was still faster than Lin Fan. When he wanted to turn around and run, Lin Fan's steel fork had already hit him. He slapped his hand hard and the gun was knocked out. Even though this guy had prepared himself mentally, he couldn't help but cover his hand. Is this a girl with super strength? How can he have such great strength? It's so strong that it can make a tough guy cry. The gun slid on the ground for a while, and no one dared to pick it up. Instead, they all moved out of the way. Police. Police. Scatter. Finally, voices of support came from the periphery. But such shouts undoubtedly lit a fire on the robbers. The robber who was just pushed away by Lin Fan saw that the boss was covering his hand and didn't move, so he cleverly flew over to pick up the gun. How could Lin Fan let him do as he wished? He rushed over, picked up the gun with a long steel fork, and slid towards Zaohi. The robber wanted to pounce again, but was hit hard in the back, and fell to the ground. He reacted quickly, endured the pain and turned over, with a fierce light in his eyes. Lin Fan had already arrived in front of him, holding the steel fork as a spear, and slapped and stabbed continuously. He glanced at the arrival of the police, and kicked the other party, when he had no power to fight back, just kicking the man to the feet of the police who had just broken through the crowd. The police uncles were extremely nervous when they received the report of robbery in the downtown area. Seeing such a complicated environment, they assigned many people to clear the scene. As a result, as soon as they entered the scene, a person flew over. If they were not mentally strong, they would be scared. Looking again, he was wearing a black hood, and he was obviously not a good person. Control him. The leading commander gave an order, and the special police tied him up like a wolf. Looking up again, a girl not far away was waving a steel fork with great vigor. I don't know how she used it. With just the steel fork, she trapped a robber and fell to the ground, unable to move. This is a good seedling. She is a material for special police. The commander watched the girl rush to the next robber without stopping and hurriedly gave the order for the special police to enter the scene to help. He had planned on the way how to negotiate, how to control the situation. Now it seems that there is no need to talk. Just do it. I don't know if the gunman's hand was injured because Lin Fan felt it was too easy to subdue him. But there were two guys behind her and she didn't have time to think about it. After knocking them down, she rushed to the next one without stopping. She subdued two people very quickly, in less than half a minute. The boss and his brother were knocked down in the blink of an eye of the two robbers behind. Seeing that woman coming towards him aggressively, the one who was closer panicked, and when he stepped back, his left foot stepped on his right foot and fell back. Needless to say, the one below, Lin Fan stepped forward and captured the man without any effort. Suffering from the lack of tools in his hands, he took off the small crossbody backpack and used the metal chain straps on it to lock the guy's hands and feet from behind. There was one left. Lin Fan raised his eyes and stood up. The robber was angered by the look that did not take him seriously at all. He was shocked and scared and retreated while watching. His psychological quality was quite good, but when he saw the fully armed special police officers holding the boss and approaching him, he was desperate to catch a pretty boy who came out of nowhere. He pulled out a dagger from his waist, put it on the neck of the pretty boy, and shouted to the people in front, "Don't move. If you come any closer, I'll kill him." The pretty boy was really tall, and he raised his hands too high, so it was difficult to exert force. The robber said in an evil voice, "Lower yourself, squat down." The pretty boy squatted down tactfully and raised his hands in fear, not daring to move. The robber felt more stable and led his people to retreat until his body was against a pillar with blind spots on both sides. He shrank behind the pretty boy and shouted, "All of you go away, all of you go away, or I will kill him." The instructor was anxious. "Didn't I tell you to clear the area? Where did this guy come from?" He just looked at the girl he liked, one by one, and their people hadn't arrived yet, but the three robbers easily dealt with it. He was thinking about how to kidnap the girl to his own hands after this matter was over. Unexpectedly, the last one actually took hostages. I don't know. Our people just cleared the area. The person next to him motioned to the commander to look around. The crowd was indeed much smaller, and the circle of onlookers was much larger. Normally, no one should be kidnapped. Where did this person come from? The commander was furious. Will these people die if they don't watch the fun? The special police team members who were originally unable to help and could only help carry the prisoners immediately got into the state. They looked at the little girl who was so vigorous just now and was motionless and thought she didn't know what to do. Several people exchanged glances and the captain was about to step forward to take the little girl away. In this kind of scene, it is better for their professional team members to intervene. Who knew that the little girl directly put her hands in front of her chest and said nonchalantly that she wanted to watch the show. Whatever you want. Why did Fan save the child, but not the pretty boy? Guess. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479 Uniform. Everyone in the SWAT team was stunned. Even the robber was stunned. What happened? Saving the child, but not the adult. Is she discriminating against the gigolo? Time was urgent, and the robber didn't see clearly what the man in his hand looked like. But looking at the skin of his neck and hands from behind, compared with his dark and rough hands, he was definitely a gigolo. If this girl didn't care about the gigolo, his heart skipped, and he quickly calmed down. Looking at the SWAT officers behind him who were obviously afraid, he finally felt relieved and continued to press the dagger against the pretty boy's neck. You. I'm talking about you. Stay away and don't come over. He didn't think about how to get out of trouble. He just knew that he couldn't let those people get close. Calm down. Calm down. We won't go over. The SWAT captain opened his hands forward, indicating that he didn't have any weapons in his hands, and took a step slightly to the side of Lin Fan. Back off. Seeing that he was still moving forward, the robber became even more tense. Okay, retreat, you retreat. The captain turned around and shouted to the team members behind him, still holding his hands in front of him. Look, they retreated. Didn't I come here to talk to you? Otherwise, you'll be shouting at the top of your lungs. How tiring. The robber saw that he really didn't move, and he believed it a little. The SWAT police were dressed in black uniforms and stood in front of him fully armed. For the bad guys, even if he smiled, the psychological oppression was still very strong. And the tiger woman next to him, although she crossed her arms and ignored it, she didn't walk away. The robber looked at the two people not far away, and he really couldn't figure out which one was more dangerous. He could only hook the neck of the hostage in front of him tightly, so that he didn't feel so weak. He couldn't see it, but the SWAT captain saw it clearly. The hostage he held seemed to be half squatting in cooperation, with his hands raised to the side of his face in a surrender gesture. But there was no expression of fear on his face. Instead he looked at the girl next to him with a smile. The relaxed and comfortable look seemed like he was playing a game of house with the robbers. He quickly glanced at the girl next to him. The expression on her face was not indifferent to the other person's life or death, but more like a kind of indifference, a sense of trust generated by knowing the other person's ability. The captain had a guess in his mind. Do they know each other? The commander also guessed. If most people do not panic when they encounter a knife on their necks, it is considered a high psychological quality. It is normal to cry and be terrified. And the man in front of him can still laugh. Either he has mental problems, or he is confident and does not take the robbers seriously. It seems so. The person next to him echoed, if he is as skilled as that girl, then there is really no need for others to rescue him. The instructor rubbed his fingers, hoping that they would have good luck today and all their wishes would come true. All of you get out of the way and prepare a car for me and fill it with gas. The robber paused for a while and finally made a request. Okay. The special service captain had just said one word when the hostage spoke. Your request is unreasonable. The voice was gentle but firm, as if he was really considering the robber. What did you say? The robber saw that the negotiation was interrupted. His eyes widened with anger, and he wanted to stab him, but he was afraid that he would have no hostage after the knife. Really, think about it. Gao is so congested, you can't drive far, even if you want a car. The person in front of him explained seriously. The robber listened and thought it made sense. He didn't notice that the hostage's voice was much more stable than his own. Then what do you say? Maybe he really couldn't think of a solution, or maybe this person did make a sincere suggestion. He actually asked. I say. The pretty boy dragged out a long tone, and the corners of his mouth became wider and wider. It's so hot. For everyone's physical and mental considerations, the best way is of course for you to surrender obediently. The robber listened very seriously, and finally found something wrong. His eyes flashed fiercely, and he gritted his teeth, and raised his hand to swing the knife. You are kidding me. Even though the SWAT captain had some guesses in his mind, he couldn't help but rush forward a few steps. It happened in a flash. The hostage, smiling, took advantage of the moment when the robber raised his hand and held down his wrist with a hand that had been raised to the side of his face, stretching it to the side. With the other hand, he grasped the hand that was stuck on his neck and pulled it down hard and twisted it. The robber just felt the pain, but before he could scream, his body was thrown to the ground. The hand that was in pain was released, and the wrist holding the knife felt numb, and his hand unconsciously loosened. Then, somehow, he was turned over, and his chin was hit hard on the ground. His two hands were like being clamped by iron pliers, firmly clasped behind his back, and a heavy force was applied to his waist, which was very painful, and made him unable to move. With a clang, the knife fell to the ground. Whether it was the special police nearby, the police officers in the distance, or the crowd who were watching from afar and had not left, they were all stunned. Almost in the blink of an eye, the hostage easily reversed the situation and subdued the robber. What's more amazing is that the guy seemed to be particularly relaxed, smiling from beginning to end, without even moving an eyebrow. The SWAT captain was stunned for a moment before he quickly ran forward to help arrest the robber. Brother, are you from the military? Laymen watch the excitement, while experts see the door. Although the police department and the military department are not the same department, they are brother units after all, and they often communicate with each other. The military's methods are obvious to veterans. Moreover, the other party's actions are crisp and neat, without any drag. Even if he were to change, he could not guarantee that he would do better. I have been there before. Wu Yusen handed the person over with a smile and stood up. Looking at Lin Fan, who was walking slowly, his smile became even bigger. How is it? Did I embarrass you? He found something wrong when he parked the car and came up. When he squeezed into the crowd, he was relieved to see that it was not Lin Fan and the others who were in trouble. But before he could relax completely, something happened. When Lin Fan rushed out, he was still wrapped in the crowd and moved forward with difficulty. Fortunately, Minister Lin was very good at kung fu, so he didn't have to worry too much. After the two robbers were dealt with in no time, the crowd on his side dispersed because the remaining two robbers were running towards this side, which just exposed him outside. Lin Fan was tying a chain on the third guy at the time. Wu Yusen saw that, since he was already here, it would be a shame not to take action. He walked forward a few steps, and was just captured by the last guy. Lin Fan smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Where's Zhao? Wu Yusen asked again. Lin Fan turned his head and looked around, and easily found the anxious and excited kid, who waved to him. At this time, all the police officers rushed over, but the guards still stopped the onlookers, and did not let go. Sister Lin. Zhao, he rushed to Lin Fan with a red face. Where's the gun? Lin Fan asked directly. She pushed the gun to Zhao before, and she didn't see who took it away in the end. It would be bad if it fell into the hands of someone with bad intentions. What gun? The commander was about to greet Lin Fan and the other two. Gun? Here. Zhao took out the black thing from his trouser pocket without hesitation and handed it to Lin Fan. The surrounding policemen began to be alert at first, and the special police held their guns to their chests. Lin Fan took it and weighed it. It doesn't seem real. She didn't notice the movement around her and handed the gun to Wu Yusen. Take a look. Wu Yusen spread his hands and smiled helplessly. You should leave it to professionals. Lin Fan looked around. My goodness, they were all staring at her. Habit is really a bad thing. For a moment I forgot that I was outside. At this time, I just played dumb. Lin Fan pretended to know nothing, held the gun head, and handed it to the person who looked like the leader. The commander carefully took the gun in his hand, and a cold sweat broke out on his back. Why do these two people seem to be very familiar with guns? After exchanging glances with the people next to him, The commander cleared his throat and said, "Please come with us." It was John Woo, the pretty boy. The robbers were unlucky to have caught him. Chapter 480 The difference after upgrading. Although no serious consequences occurred, the robbery and possession of guns itself is a major vicious incident. In the distance, the crowd of onlookers did not disperse for a long time, and it was indeed not a place to talk. Seeing Wu Yusen nodded slightly, Lin Fan nodded in response. He had not yet completely calmed down from the shock just now, and his face was full of excitement. Now that he knew he would take a trip in a police car, the child was even more excited. After all, who doesn't have a dream of riding in a police car, going to the police station for sightseeing, and then getting away unscathed? Several people are very skilled, but they are not suspects, so the commander specially arranged them in the special police car. The rear compartment of the special police car is a long seat on the left and right sides, where people can sit. After arranging 3 people to get on first, the other special police followed. Because the 3 people had an abnormal attitude towards guns before, the armed special police were still on alert, sitting opposite each other, without saying a word. Although there was no direct line of sight, the whole compartment was under heavy pressure. Ordinary people sitting in it would be scared to death, even if they did nothing. He didn't care about these. He was a young and brave man, and he was excited. He looked around after getting on the train. Even though the dark and empty carriage was empty, he felt happy. "Brother Wu." After a while, he finally calmed down and asked, "Why did you get hijacked before?" With Wu Yusen's skills, he could have knocked the other party down directly, so why did he deliberately get hijacked by the other party? The special police did not move at all, and their ears were all erected. Wu Yusen smiled and replied, "To increase the life experience." Life experience? He didn't quite understand. "You mean the experience of being hijacked?" Lin Fan was speechless. What is there to increase in this experience? Sure enough, men are just children until they die. Wu Yusen saw Lin Fan curled his lips and said, "People's hearts are not as good as they used to be. I have a knife on my neck, and none of you are worried." "Only you?" Lin Fan rolled his eyes. "Is it the robbers who need to be worried more?" He laughed beside him. He knew that John Woo was very skilled, so he was not worried at all. When Lin Fan rushed out before, he was still wondering why John Woo hadn't arrived yet, but when he saw that Lin Fan was even more skilled, he was completely relieved. The SWAT officers thought about the performance of the 2 men just now, and silently put themselves in the role of opponents. The man's movements were neat, and he had worked in the military before, but they could still fight him to some extent. On the contrary, the woman's movements were too fast. Even as a SWAT officer, she was still a little behind. He secretly glanced at the thin arms. The lines were smooth. The muscles were slender. Could she be so powerful? The SWAT captain was a little eager to practice with them. But thinking of the doubts about the identities of several people, he could only watch with his eyes and nose, and kept silent, trying to create greater psychological pressure with the silent atmosphere. After he passed the excitement, he felt the atmosphere in the car, and he began to feel uneasy, but soon he was attracted by the nonsense between John Woo and Lin Fan, and he unconsciously forgot the psychological discomfort. They chatted and laughed all the way and soon arrived at the police station. After entering the interview room, John Woo and Lin Fan showed their IDs, and soon, the problem was solved. Watching John Woo chatting with the other party skillfully, Lin Fan suddenly remembered the first time they met. John Woo also smiled like this, chatting with others in the interview room of the police station like brothers. It was just that she was the one who called the police, and the 2 were on the opposite side, but now she and him have become a group. Lin Fan smiled. The already vague memory was far and near. When she called the police, she thought John Woo was a psychopath, and she never thought that today. It was dark when she came out of the police station. He was afraid that his family would come back and not see him, so he rushed home anxiously, but halfway he received news that his parents were left at the company to work overtime, and asked him to solve dinner by himself. He was not in a hurry anymore. The 3 of them went back to the mall near his home to eat. There were still people coming and going on the first floor, and it was impossible to tell what happened in the afternoon. They found a private room, ate first and then talked, and finally talked about the card upgrade. "So is there any difference in the upgraded cards?" Will the characters inside become stronger after being released? Lin Fan looked at the latest card. There was a full body portrait of a two-dimensional loli girl on it. She didn't recognize it, but it was pretty. So boys of this age like cute loli girls, right? Not really. He was excited when talking about the cards. At least the small ones I tried had no obvious difference in ability. Large monsters like Ultraman and Hydra simply couldn't be released for normal testing. But he knew the cards himself, and if he said no, it probably meant it. After the card was upgraded, first of all, my ability became stronger. He said with a smile, it takes less time to make a card of the same power. This is a good thing. Lin Fan smiled and clapped his hands. Does it mean that the stronger your ability, the less energy you need to make cards? No, it's actually relative. He scratched his nose. I think the energy required to make cards has not changed. It's just that I've become stronger, so the demand seems to be smaller and the time is shorter. Also, because my ability has become stronger, my control over the cards has also become stronger. I could only use one card at a time before, but now I can use up to 3 at the same time. I thought you could just make the card and throw it out, and then use it directly. Lin Fan said. How can that be possible? You still have to control it. He smiled, but compared to making cards, control doesn't take much effort. It's mainly because I use my mind to control their behavior, but I still have to use some. Making cards consumes the most energy, and the energy used to control the cards can be almost ignored. But even if it can be ignored, it still has to be used. Before, due to the limitation of ability, cards could only be used one by one. For example, if you use Ultraman, only Ultraman can appear. If you want to use Hydra, Ultraman must disappear. It's different now. He can make 3 card characters appear at the same time, and he can control them accurately at the same time. He feels that he can simply dominate the world. And because the ability has become stronger, if I want to release the returned cards on the spot, it will be easier and more durable than before. As mentioned before, if Ultraman wants to summon it again after 3 minutes, he must use his body ability to recharge on the spot. This kind of charging is equivalent to writing cards on a small scale. In the past, he could only support it once, and the person would not be able to do it, but now that he has more energy, the number of times has naturally increased. It's just that the specific number of times it can be recharged depends on the energy size of the card character. There is another one, which is very important. His eyes lit up when he said this. I can create cards for virtual characters. I wanted to take a police car and go to the police station to take a look, but I didn't have the chance to ride in a police car. 2 years ago, I picked up a mobile phone and sent it to the police station. I also went in to take a look. Chapter 481 AI. Virtual characters? Lin Fan was puzzled. What do you mean? It's just imaginary non-existent characters. He smiled even more brightly. What about Ultraman, Hydra, etc.? Lin Fan didn't quite understand. Aren't these characters in cartoons? Aren't they virtual? No, I mean completely fictional characters that didn't exist before. He scratched his head. How should I put it? Although Ultraman and others don't exist in reality, they are real in the story, with their own names, attributes, and special abilities, such as height and weight. But the virtual characters I'm talking about now have never existed before. I created them out of thin air, and wrote them into the cards. Huh. Lin Fan blinked. You created them out of thin air? So amazing. John Woo also became interested. Tell me more about it. Like this. He pushed out a card. This is my virtual character card. Lin Fan took it and saw that it was the Lolita girl she had never seen before. Isn't this a character from the cartoon? I feel a little familiar. Have you seen it somewhere? John Woo also took it and looked at it carefully. Well, I don't know much about this, but what abilities does your character have? The big-eyed 2D cute girl looks very likable. Her long pink hair is tied into 2 ponytails, and a black bow is worn on the top of her head, like 2 wings raised, about to fly. She wears a white top with a large wavy lace on the chest, and a black miniskirt on the bottom. There is also a white wavy lace decoration on the front of the skirt. On her snow white long legs, white stockings are worn all the way to the middle of the thigh, and there is a pair of black round-toed leather shoes on her feet. The character is cute and the style of painting is beautiful. But what's the point of releasing such a character? You can't rely on beauty to defeat the opponent, right? If there is such a combat classification, then she is not beautiful enough. What John Woo said is what Lin Fan wanted to ask. This is just an experiment. Zaohi's face suddenly turned red, and his speech became rhythmic. Well, because it was my first attempt, I didn't know how to set the data, so I just set a useless attribute. Wu Yusen raised his eyebrows slightly, smiled and said nothing. Lin Fan still didn't understand the situation, and asked what it was. Zaohi blushed again and again, and seeing Lin Fan's serious face, Wu Yusen looked gentle again, wiped his face and spoke. At that time, I just thought about being considerate, cooking and doing housework. Ah. Lin Fan understood. This is a housekeeper. No wonder there is a large piece of lace decoration on the clothes. It turned out to be an apron. But why did Zaohi blush? The heart of a young man. I don't understand. Speaking of which, it's also good to use virtual characters to do housework, and you don't have to pay them wages. While Lin Fan was thinking divergently here, Wu Yusen smiled and returned the card to Zaohi. Then did you draw this image too? Are you versatile? No. Zaohi took the card and quickly put it in between the other cards and put it in his trouser pocket. I fed it with AI. What? Feed what? Lin Fan felt that she was distracted and reached a point where she couldn't understand again. AI. John Woo took over her words. Haven't you seen it? There has been a lot of discussion online recently about whether AI artificial intelligence will replace human labor. No, I don't like to read these. Lin Fan shook his head lightly. I only know that there is a drawing software called AI. Lin Fan doesn't play with her mobile phone very much. In this era, when everyone has a mobile phone, she feels a little bit backward in the technological age. When waiting for the bus or subway, she would rather be in a daze than take out her mobile phone to kill time. Those short videos or games have no appeal to her. In addition, she feels that looking at the small screen all the time is straining her eyes. If she really needs to check something, she will use a large screen computer, which looks more comfortable. Therefore, except for occasional group chats, answering calls and notifications from the institute, her mobile phone is basically not used if it cannot be used. John Woo also knew this, and regardless of Zaohi's strange look, he explained directly and concisely. Yes, Sister Lin, our classmates like to play this now. After John Woo finished speaking, Zaohi echoed. Some people directly use AI to write essays, and they get high scores when they hand them in. But these are all fake scores. It's useless to fool the teacher. Can they be used in the college entrance examination? Lin Fan was puzzled. Although she didn't like to study when she was in school, couldn't the teacher see such obvious fooling? The teacher can't do anything about it. Zaohi said this with a sullen look on his face. Nowadays, teachers are not gardeners. Hey, forget it. Let's not talk about this. He waved his hand. Anyway, AI programs are very popular now, and everyone is having fun playing with them. Wu Yusen searched for a few pictures on the internet and handed them to Lin Fan to take a look, and she probably understood. This is not what I imagined. I thought the artificial intelligence you were talking about was like the Zingland system. What Zingland system? Zaohi's eyes lit up and asked. Lin Fan explained it roughly, and then said, but looking at these on the internet, well, it's really a lot of data input, and then organized with logical algorithms. It's like a person who is erudite to a certain extent, and has a rich life experience to a certain extent, and can naturally do it. Unfortunately, in real life, due to lifespan limitations, or other subjective and objective conditions, no one can really achieve such a volume of reading and experience. Lin Fan said, feeling that he had missed a few people, and hurriedly added, of course, if the ugly woman hadn't slept, she should be able to do it. Old Kyan, Lord Kyan-su, or the eldest senior brother, people with longer lifespan should also be able to do it. There are many people in the Special Affairs Office who are hundreds or thousands of years old, and they are no worse than this AI. But how can those people come and answer questions from people? So, I feel that this AI is a surreal idealized human brain, and it is the kind that answers every question. Lin Fan said, and shook his head. You think it's not good? Zhao he didn't quite understand. He felt that AI was very good, a product of high-tech development, artificial intelligence. Why did Lin Fan look like he didn't like it so much? Me. I don't comment. Lin Fan shrugged. It's just that, if you have seen the Zingland system, you will know that the artificial intelligence you are touting now is nothing. The Zingland system is a military system. Of course it is not something that ordinary people can see. Lin Fan's combat helmet is equipped with the Zingland system, but because she is a biological armor, the artificial intelligence of Zingland is not very obvious. If you want to really show it, you have to go to Fu Guang's bionic armor or Pangu to see it. But unfortunately, even for the employees of the Special Affairs Office, it is difficult to see it. Artificial intelligence is not a topic that has only emerged recently. In fact, research has been started a long time ago. It has suddenly become so popular recently. Lin Fan always feels that there is something strange, but he can't put his finger on it. This is not to take advantage of the popularity. It was set before. Chapter 482 Feeding. So this picture of yours is generated by AI. Wu Yusen saw that Lin Fan had ended the topic. Zhao he was at a loss as to what to say, so he quickly started a new topic. Ah, yes. Zhao he breathed a sigh of relief. Drawing AI is also very popular recently. Enter keywords and the picture will be drawn in seconds. It is said that many companies have laid off designers and painters and use this, which is economical and convenient. Lin Fan clicked on the news about drawing AI in the news and started reading. Really? Is it really that convenient? Wu Yusen was not a designer after all. He was more familiar with text AI and had used it before, but he didn't know much about drawing AI. Really, I have such an app on my phone. Zhao he saw that Wu Yusen was interested, so he dragged his chair next to him, turned on his phone, and started to operate it. He only entered a few keywords, and after a while of system spinning, a not so ideal picture appeared on the phone interface. That's it? Wu Yusen was disappointed. This looks like a kindergarten kid's graffiti. Well, this is a random chance. If you are not satisfied, you can change it. Zhao he was a little embarrassed, and quickly clicked the change button. Soon the interface changed to another picture. It's better than before. Can I change it? Wu Yusen felt that the maturity of this kind of drawing AI was obviously not as high as the text, and it felt too random. Let me see. Lin Fan also ran behind the two of them curiously to look at it together. After changing 7 or 8 times, a more acceptable picture finally came out. This one may be less popular and not easy to draw. Zhao he wiped the non-existent sweat, saved the picture, re-imported it into the program, and entered the keyword Mecha again. Select the picture to generate faster. Is your housekeeper also generated it this way? Lin Fan looked at it for a while and felt uncomfortable. Yes, just enter the keywords, then choose a good picture, feed it to it, and then regenerate it. Zhao he replied, but it was quite easy to do that time, unlike today, which took so many times. Maybe it's because there are more two-dimensional pictures on the internet, and there are more reference pictures, so it's faster to generate. Wu Yusen said in combination with the previous theory. Yes, I guess so. Zhao he nodded. We call this feeding pictures. Many people also feed famous paintings or drafts to AI, and then let it regenerate. While talking, new pictures came out again. The Mecha picture that came out this time is very beautiful, and the silver-white Mecha shines brightly in the red flames and gunpowder background. Whether it is color, light and shadow, or structure, it is very eye-catching. Wow, Lin Fan exclaimed, it's really beautiful. This Mecha looks majestic and majestic. Unlike the appearance of stars, it looks a bit like Pangu. Is it right? Zhao he also became happy. Wu Yusen took the phone and enlarged the picture to take a closer look. Why is there a missing piece of this finger? The structure of the ankle is also weird. Let me see. Zhao he came over to take a look. Really? He continued to save the picture without caring and fed it in again. But this is how the program is. Sometimes there will be problems with the details. I'll try again. After a few more rounds of feeding, a picture of a Mecha with no faults finally came out. It was not the same as the first version, but it still looked good. I say, if this picture is sent to 800, will they make it? Lin Fan sat back in his chair. The few mechas I saw at 800 didn't look good. Maybe they need this program more. The best looking ones were Fu Guang and his friends, and they were also designed after Xingqian. Although the previous Pangu was huge and shocking, it was not very beautiful to be honest. Of course, beauty is not important in front of combat effectiveness. But obviously, those researchers who study mechanical power are not good at appearance design, and don't pay much attention to it. Since they can successfully make bionic armor according to Xingqian, can they also make a new series of mechas according to the new shape in the picture? Do you still need to worry about it? Do you think they are stupid? Wu Yusen picked up the Coke bottle and filled it for several people. So now this picture is finished, right? Can it be made into a card and used normally? It still lacks attributes. He held up the cup with both hands to receive the drink. The picture can only generate the appearance. The attribute data is the most important. But I can't do this. He had wanted to generate a violent lolly before, but when the time came, his head was empty and he couldn't think of any skills. But the arrow was already on the string and had to be shot. He was afraid of wasting an opportunity and wasting his efforts, so he just thought of a few life attributes at random, and the card was actually generated successfully. To be honest, he was quite surprised. Later, it was proved that the released character was indeed useful. Is that so? Wu Yusen pondered for a moment. How about I try to apply for part of Xingqian's data and add it to this mecha for you? The stronger the character's ability, the harder it is to generate a card. This is also an attempt. If he can't even write part of Xingqian's data into the card, then there is no need to think about writing Xingqian directly. Good. He's face was full of joy, and he raised his cup to toast the two. I've thought about it before, whether I should try to make some virtual cards, and then use the supernatural data in the institute. He put down the cup and said, but data alone is not enough. It would be best if I could see the power with my own eyes. The generation of the card depends entirely on He's consciousness. Only when he clearly understands and firmly believes in it, the generated ability will be real and effective. It's like you tell someone who has never seen Ultraman what Ultraman looks like, then it is estimated that Ultraman in the minds of 100 people will be different. That's easy. Wu Yusen nodded. The institute has a video recording. If it is approved, you will be allowed to watch the video recording at that time. Xingqian's every test was recorded and retained, just for record at that time, but I didn't expect it to be used here. That's great. He was really happy. High ability attributes can not only increase the ability of the card character, but also improve his proficiency in card making ability during generation. Therefore, the strength value of the card is equivalent to his ability value, and naturally the higher the better. After eating and drinking, the two sent He to the gate of his community. As soon as the two sides waved goodbye, He called. On the phone, a sturdy male voice roared and asked him where he had been and why he hadn't come home so late. Lin Fan saw that He's originally relaxed steps paused, and after pausing for a while, he walked forward, but every step was heavy. Wu Yusen saw it too. But some things are really difficult for outsiders to interfere. Fortunately, he has already joined the Special Affairs Office, and the office will have regular physical examinations, including psychological intervention. This is a blessing in disguise. At least it won't make he become another Lin Fan. Wu Yusen saw that Lin Fan's brows were already frowning, and he watched He's back gradually disappear into the darkness with concern. He put his arm around her shoulders, turned her around, and said casually, "Let's go. Second dimension lolly girl. Oh wow, I've drawn it before. Coconut, it's starting to get hot here, to the point where I'll sweat if I don't turn on the fan. How about you guys?" Chapter 483 Intuition. What do you think is wrong with AI? On the way back, John Woo suddenly asked Lin Fan. Huh? Lin Fan didn't react for a moment. Why did he suddenly talk about this? It's been a long time since they finished their meal. When I talked about AI just now, I saw that your expression was not right. John Woo turned the steering wheel skillfully and did not forget to explain to Lin Fan, if you think there is something wrong, just say it. You know, in our industry, intuition is also very important. Lin Fan breathed a sigh of relief. There is nothing wrong. I just feel something is weird. Tell me. I was thinking at the time, suppose this AI was deliberately created by people and it was collected in the name of high technology. For some reason, since Lin Fan knew the operating principle of this software, she couldn't help thinking about this. John Woo tightened his hand holding the steering wheel and glanced at her. Why do you think so? I don't know. Maybe it's the intuition you mentioned. Lin Fan shrugged. Of course, it may also be that I think too much. Go on. John Woo's voice was a little heavy. Lin Fan tutted and exhaled again. Then I'll tell you. Wu Yusen hummed and looked forward. Look, if we were two strangers. Lin Fan leaned back in his chair, looking at the brake lights that were lighting up one after another in front of him, his two index fingers circling around his legs. I want to know something about you. What's the fastest way? Check my information. Wu Yusen answered casually, and then he was stunned. Well, I don't know you. I don't know what kind of person you are. So from my point of view, I will definitely try my best to understand you. Check information or ask people. Lin Fan continued. But these two methods are not the best, because the information may not be accurate, and if you find out, you may have resistance to me. Wu Yusen frowned slightly. Indeed, no one would be happy if someone pried into their privacy without knowing it. Resistance is bound to arise. I don't want you to know that I'm prying into you. I hope you don't know, and I want the information to be accurate. What's the best way? Lin Fan glanced at Wu Yusen. Wu Yusen stepped on the brakes at the red light, turned his head, and looked at Lin Fan, self-deprecatingly. I suddenly feel that I didn't use my brain tonight. So don't keep me in suspense, just tell me directly. Lin Fan chuckled. The way to make you not notice and not have any resistance is to tell it yourself. Wu Yusen's heart boomed, as if it was hit hard by something. Some fragmented and chaotic thoughts flew by, and he couldn't catch them all at once. Hey, start driving. Lin Fan quickly reminded him to start, otherwise he would be beeped. Wu Yusen quickly turned his attention back to the road. I mean, if someone uses AI to get information, it's the best opportunity. Lin Fan coughed lightly and said seriously. Look, culture, history, novels, all kinds of humanities materials, it has collected them all. Calligraphy, painting, literature and art are also included. I saw a conversation on the internet today. She looked at Wu Yusen seriously. The AI even knows which J-ships and aircraft we have. Don't you think it's scary? Of course, when these ships were launched, there were news releases, but AI has gathered this information, which is much more terrifying than the previous intelligence agency's manual collection and comparison. Wu Yusen slammed on the brakes, and there was another red light. But those companies must have been investigated, and are legal and compliant. Normal enterprises. He frowned and said, I don't know about those. Lin Fan shook his head slowly. I'm just saying my feeling. If someone uses AI to steal information, and we don't know it yet, thinking it's advanced technology, or something fun, and keep feeding it all kinds of information. Wu Yusen felt like someone had his spinal cord pulled out from the top of his head, and his whole back was cold. Yes, the AI market seems to be bustling now. Although there are various voices, people like Zaohe, who are curious, want to use it as a tool, or want to try it out and have fun, are constantly feeding various information. Lin Fan is right. Everyone is unconsciously instilling various information into it. Look, let's not talk about whether artificial intelligence will replace humans or enslave them. Lin Fan continued. It would be great if AI is really an inevitable development of technological progress. But what if it is not? What if it is a thief disguised as high-tech? Wu Yusen didn't say anything. At present, internationally speaking, our technology level is the most advanced in the world, right? Lin Fan said. When I went to P country before, I went to their science and technology museum and saw some high-tech things. Although they certainly won't show all of them, they are more or less representative. And we, the highest technology representative, 800. I also stayed for a while. The highest technology artificial intelligence system is just the Zingland system. Wu Yusen and his friends certainly knew and had seen the Zingland system. You all know what the Zingland system is like. It is a system that assists mechas and is known as the most advanced artificial intelligence system, but it is completely different from the AI I saw today. Although Zinglan is an auxiliary system, as the most advanced artificial intelligence, it is no problem to interact with people and answer questions. When it comes to high technology, 800 is definitely not worse than other places. But these AIs suddenly became popular, which made Lin Fan feel a little awkward and inexplicably uncomfortable. I saw a lot of screenshots of text and paintings today. No matter which one, they are all exquisite, gorgeous, and impeccable. They seem to be much better than humans. At first glance, they are very attractive. But if you look closely, you can see various traces of patchwork. I studied art design back then. I dare not say about text, but in the paintings, I saw obvious patchwork in the few times Zao Hechan created them. It absorbs a lot of data, breaks it down, analyzes it, and reorganizes it. Lin Fan shook his head slowly. It is said that art is a lot of plagiarism. As long as the plagiarism is skillful, it can be considered as one's own original creation. AI's large-scale generation is certainly efficient, but people will add their own emotions and ideas to their creations. But will AI? It doesn't even know what emotions are. Such AI just absorbs the materials of predecessors and combines them efficiently. Can it be used? It can be used. Is it easy to use? It is easy to use. But as a former creator, Lin Fan feels that these things have no soul. When social development has no creativity, but only repetitive and efficient reorganization, what will life become? It's scary to think about it. And whether there is a conspiracy behind these so-called high technologies is another matter. You mean, there is a force that uses AI to collect all kinds of official and civilian information without leaving any trace, and has some plan? John Woo had never thought about the problem from this angle, but he felt that what Lin Fan said made sense. The internet is so developed now, and basically everything that AI can collect is available on the internet, right? John Woo frowned and asked again. Kid, be bold. Maybe we can think more divergently. Lin Fan turned his head slightly, curling his lips. Isn't it possible that it is an alien force? A bold guess. Haha. Chapter 484. Alert. Alien forces? Wu Yusen's eyes widened. How did you think of this? Why not? Seeing his surprised look, Lin Fan couldn't help but feel a little proud. He wanted to cross his legs, but his knees hit the glove box and were blocked. I thought you had been mentally prepared when you saw the ugly woman, the world tree, and the flying shuttle, and knew that New were left on a spaceship. She didn't say it herself. Although she didn't want to admit it, Xingqian didn't feel any discomfort when flying in space, so she probably couldn't escape. With so many facts in front of them, it would be too ridiculous to say that they still have no idea about aliens. Not to mention that when the first satellite was launched, those old researchers thought about dealing with aliens. Every satellite launched later carried more or less some information, wanting to explore whether there were other aliens besides Langsing. Even the current Xianting space station has prepared things to contact aliens. Of course, they thought they were prepared, and they didn't know if it was useful. Speaking of the ugly woman, Wu Yusen was reminded by Lin Fan. Do you think it's possible that this AI is the world tree? The world tree needs to obtain the latest information about the planet's survival status. Its roots spread wildly deep underground, forming a network that is wider than the global network. If the world tree is the source of AI, it would be logical to obtain such a large amount of cultural knowledge. And from the perspective of time, it only happened in the past 2 months, which is a perfect match. Well, Lin Fan thought about it carefully. I don't think it's likely. Why? John Woo still didn't want to lean towards the aliens. Peaceful life is hard won, and he doesn't want to break it, but he can't. If it was done by the world tree, it's impossible that the institute doesn't know anything about it, right? Lin Fan said. Before, Jin Sichin had been with us the whole time, and he had gradually taken out a lot of information from the world tree. If the AI was created by the world tree, then given his relationship with Nfchao, he shouldn't have known anything about it. Is it possible that Nfchao didn't know? Wu Yusen continued. Jin Sichin said that Nchao was the tree keeper and had a certain degree of control over the tree, but the world tree is an intelligent server, and even the growth of its roots is autonomous. So if it acts on its own and creates an AI without telling Nchao, that's possible, right? Lin Fan thought about it and nodded. Indeed, there is such a possibility. Let Jin Sichin check it out when we get back. If the AI is really created by the world tree, that would be a relief. Wu Yusen's heart was beating, but seeing Lin Fan's serious expression, he smiled and comforted him. Look at your brain. How could ordinary people think of these things? I think it's a pity that you don't write novels. Oh. Lin Fan raised his eyelids. But you ask me to say it, don't be so sarcastic. Where is the irony? I'm just praising you for being smart. Wu Yusen said with a smile. I didn't think of that. There's nothing I can do. I have to start from myself. Lin Fan pouted helplessly. She herself is a suspected alien, so it's normal to start from this perspective. It's over. Now that she has started to consider things from the perspective of aliens, is she gradually becoming less of a human? Wu Yusen was silent for a while, and then continued. Then start from yourself again. Tell me, if it were you, what would you want to do by creating an AI? The information was so much and so diverse. In addition to historical geology, astronomy, and geography, poetry, calligraphy, painting, and sculpture information, there was everything. Could it be that the aliens wanted to be influenced by the art of langsing? As for me, Lin Fan exhaled and said slowly, if I were an alien, I would see a strange planet and want to know what's going on there. I would quietly use so-called AI to infiltrate the network of this planet, causing a technological frenzy, and then collect all the information. When I see the history, the ideals, pursuits, and preferences of these people, and then look at the map, which places a land or ocean, which places are suitable for survival, and where there are mineral resources. Lin Fan spoke slowly while thinking, but these words, that were not scary, aroused goosebumps in John Woo. Let's not talk about something so outrageous. Let's talk about the most popular face-changing videos now. The comments below all say that it's fun. But is it really good to be able to use other people's faces so easily and make them look so realistic? In the past, people said that seeing is believing, and they had to take videos as evidence for everything. But when AI can easily replace people's faces, ordinary people can't tell whether the video is true or false. Just subjective conjectures and rumors can easily destroy a person, not to mention such clear videos. Everyone may think that it is a kind of entertainment, but I'm worried. Lin Fan frowned. Technology has no attributes, but if it falls into the hands of people with bad intentions, the consequences are really unimaginable. And now it seems that AI technology seems immature, just a tool or a toy, but when people subtly adapt to the existence of this thing and rely on it, and its technology becomes more and more advanced. She glanced at Wu Yusen. Just like people use mobile phones now, it is not certain who is the toy. Okay, don't say it. I will ask Leo ZHU to check this matter carefully when I go back. It is better to be safe than sorry. AI is obviously higher than the current general technological level. If there are really aliens like Lin Fan said, then their technological level must be higher than that of Langsing. It's okay to be friendly, but I'm afraid there are other purposes. Of course, sending an AI to snoop for information quietly doesn't look like a friendly act. Lin Fan is right. Since they have appeared, how long will it take for other aliens to appear? We can't develop aerospace technology, explore space, and search for aliens, while taking it for granted that aliens don't really exist, or that they are all friendly, right? The technology of aliens that can fly to their doorstep must be much higher than this. If they really have bad intentions and they are unprepared, it will be really miserable. Although Lin Fan's idea was a bit whimsical, it did remind them. Moreover, let alone aliens, it's not okay for the Langsing people to do bad things themselves. We must figure out the situation and take precautions in time. Wu Yusen pretended to be worried all the way back to the Special Affairs office. When he got up from the elevator, he ran away in a hurry without sending Lin Fan back. Lin Fan was not a little girl who couldn't leave her alone. She stood in the elevator, checked the troops in the cafeteria and dormitory, and finally went to the cafeteria. Wang Fengfeng waited in the cafeteria as usual, waiting for the latest gossip. The next afternoon, Jin Sichen's news came. The ugly woman did not find any AI-like program running in the world tree. Okay, the program will be transferred. The information department got busy and started to dig up the internal information of the AI company. They not only checked the legal person, capital injection, and operation of the company, but also the detailed information of all the employees, especially the programmers. This was not enough. They also started to decode the AI program. In short, Wang Fengfeng had not shown up in the cafeteria for a long time. But after checking again and again, apart from some information about tax evasion and privacy that could not be disclosed, they did not find anything they wanted to find. The programmers were normal. The program was also normal. Could it be that they really made a mistake? The people in the information department did not feel that their work was in vain. This is how they work. They would rather be busy for a while and find that everything is normal and there is no problem, rather than find out a little bit of a problem. When Wang Fengfeng came out again, it was like Sun Wukong breaking free from the Five-Finger Mountain, and he felt that the world was full of love. He pulled Lin Fan to gossip, leaving aside what he could not say, and said everything he could say. In a dark room, a small screen suddenly lit up, and key sounds rang one by one, followed by the waiting tone of the phone. The phone rang a few times before it was connected. A male voice asked in the darkness, "You didn't get discovered?" "Oh, that's what I meant. AI is just part of the plot. Don't take it into reality. I finally have over 1,000 collections. Wow, so happy, my dears." Muah. Chapter 485 Delayed Progress. Maybe it was because the initial 2 months of novelty had passed, or maybe the investigation of the Special Affairs Office was discovered by the main company. The AI craze on the internet suddenly subsided and became silent. Although the noisy hype was gone, Wang Fengfeng and his team detected that more people were using AI. Given that no problems had been found before, the Special Affairs Office could not do anything to a normal operating company just because of speculation. But because of the hypothesis proposed by Lin Fan, the higher-ups had another subtle precaution against such a silent popularization phenomenon. The day after Wu Yusen reported that he could create virtual character cards, the Special Affairs Office found an excuse to contact his school and found a legitimate way to pick him up without being noticed. At first, Lin Fan went to take a look. They showed he some data of Xingqian, and he was dazzled. He didn't understand anything except the numbers. Fortunately, they combined the data and played him Xingqian's videos. Lin Fan watched too and ran away. No matter when, watching your own videos in front of others always feels inexplicably embarrassed. This time the Mecha is bigger, plus he is in the 3rd year of high school. His studies are tighter than before, and he can't find the time and place to secretly make the card. The Special Affairs Office found several excuses to pick him up from school and arranged a room for him to make it with peace of mind. Lin Fan and John Woo had a new job, and they knew that he didn't disturb him at the critical moment. But no one expected that, perhaps because Xingqian's ability was too strong, or perhaps because of the virtual character. The difficulty of making the card this time was much more difficult than the previous housekeeper. He failed countless times, and just when he began to retreat, Wang Fengfeng stepped in. After he knew that he had become a housekeeper out of thin air, he had been looking for an opportunity to take a look. But he also knew the importance of the matter and would not disturb others' work. Until his state fell to the bottom, his face was pale, and he couldn't taste the food in the cafeteria. The intimate brother came on stage in time. I don't know how he spoke so eloquently. Anyway, when Lin Fan knew about this, his virtual Mecha card had been made. Wang Fengfeng also looked at the housekeeper's body with satisfaction and kept bragging to others. I didn't realize you were so eloquent. Lin Fan's impression of the gossip king changed again. It was still the cafeteria, and it was still time to eat. Wu Yusen and Lin Fan had just finished a task and came back exhausted. Before they changed their clothes, Wang Fengfeng pressed their heads and indoctrinated them with current affairs. That's it. Wang Fengfeng dragged out the sound and proudly leaned his hands on the back of the chair behind him. If I had studied psychology, I probably wouldn't have had a chance to work with Jin Sichen. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen both raised their eyes and stared at him. Is this guy getting cocky? Jin Sichin's special status in the Special Affairs Office is not only based on his hard power, but also on his talent. Wang Fengfeng found that he had exaggerated a bit and felt a little embarrassed. He took back his hands and cleared his throat. Well, cut out that part just now. Don't tell Jin Sichin. Jin Sichin is not a generous person, and it's too easy to make things difficult for him. Lin Fan smiled and continued to eat. I thought you had grown up, but you are still. Wu Yusen shook his head and sighed. Nonsense, that's Jin Sichin. Wang Fengfeng was recruited by the Special Affairs Office, so his IQ couldn't be low. If it were you, would you dare to say it to his face? The incident of the people who offended him being hypnotized into a hen and clucking all over the office has not yet passed. Those people now dare not appear in the office area and apply to work on the floor where Jin Sichin will not appear. Think about how big a shadow this incident has left on people. Me. I never thought about studying psychology. Wu Yusen smiled and shrugged, deliberately using Wang Fengfeng's words just now to block him. Seeing that Wang Fengfeng was choked and his face began to redden, Lin Fan quickly interrupted. Now that Zhao has succeeded, can we go see him? Not yet. Wang Fengfeng didn't want to talk to Wu Yusen for a while, so he turned to Lin Fan. Although his virtual mecha has been made, the control is not very stable, and the duration is also long and short. This kid's mentality is not very stable, and seeing you at this time will make him feel stressed. Let's wait until he stabilizes. Zhao virtual mecha card is to pave the way for the Xingqian card. If things are not going well, seeing Lin Fan will indeed increase his extra burden. Lin Fan nodded and then asked in surprise, but I remember his card. It's not okay to say that it's okay after it's made. Why does it need to be debugged later? Ban He and the others have analyzed it. It may be because the Xingqian data is too powerful and beyond his current ability. Wang Fengfeng replied, otherwise, according to the proficiency of card making, it shouldn't take so long to succeed. Zhao card includes Ultraman, robots, and even monsters like Hydra that look very strong. In order to practice proficiency, he frequently makes cards, releases characters or destroys characters. Proficiency should not be a problem. Another point is that it has something to do with the virtual character created out of thin air. Wu Yusen interrupted. He was also quite concerned about Zhao situation and knew more about it than Lin Fan. Although he watched your video, the impression formed in his mind was not solid and was still vague. He must have been unsure, so he spent more time in this hesitation and uncertainty. Watching the video can't be solid? Lin Fan didn't understand. Take the video of you catching the rocket with your hand as an example. Wu Yusen continued. He knows the rocket data and the explosive power and knows that you can catch it, but because he is not familiar with the rocket itself, he has no way to determine the degree. Another example is that everyone knows that guns have recoil and will make a relatively loud noise. But how many people have heard a real gunshot and can still distinguish it? The recoil and operation of various guns are different. If you don't experience it in person, you will feel it very well. Wu Yusen changed the analogy again, so he understood more this time. Zhao was a child after all. He didn't know the test data of various tests, and his understanding of the properties of the stars was still limited to those videos. Being able to fly, hide in the sky, and catch rockets with bare hands, isn't that amazing? It's amazing, but how amazing is it exactly? Exclamation mark. Just talking about these few, many people with special abilities in the Special Affairs Office can also do it. So Zhao's heart was full of uncertainty. In this case, his mind was always wavering, which naturally affected the efficiency of card making. Although the virtual mecha has been made now, he still doesn't know where the ability of this mecha is. So it has to be released many times and wait for the mecha to fully demonstrate its strength so that Zhao can figure it out and have a clear mind. Only then can the consciousness be firm and the card can play its due role. I understand what you said, Lin Fan said to John Woo, but weren't those cards he used before also characters in cartoons? And Zhao couldn't experience them in person, so how could it be so easy? We have also studied this, Wang Fengfeng continued. It should be that those cartoon characters have a complete world, with complete logic and worldview. He accepts it and believes it, so it is easier to operate. Or it's related to his psychological certainty. Lin Fan roughly understood. That is to say, it is not as easy to make virtual character cards as the housekeeper, right? He wanted to make a few more virtual ability cards before, but according to the current situation, it seems that it is not easy. It should be said that this kind of offensive virtual character is not easy. Although the housekeeper is also a virtual character, her attributes are too common, so there is no difficulty. Wang Fengfeng corrected. Wu Yusen also added on the side. In fact, this is also expected. If it is so easy to create a virtual character with high attack power, it will definitely break a certain balance. The character image is easy to handle, and the attribute special things are a lot. From a practical point of view, it is best to apply all kinds of high attack, high defense, high blood, and high magic attributes to a virtual character. But is it possible? There has never been such a good thing in the world, so they took it for granted before. The process from nothing to something is never easy. A new month has begun, and everyone has a happy Children's Day. Creating something out of nothing is always the most difficult, except for talking. Here are the constraints for the cards, otherwise he can really fly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486 ready. The card making still delayed Zaohi's study. He could easily make a card, but who knew that he would fail miserably this time? Whether it was because it took up a lot of time, or because it was a blow to Zaohi's confidence. In short, Zaohi failed the first monthly exam after entering the third year of high school. The Special Affairs Office quickly adjusted the plan. For students, the most important thing is to study. After all, the college entrance examination is an important and rare life experience for most people. Even though Zaohi has been accepted by the Special Affairs Office and does not have to consider future work, but they still hope that this child can experience a complete life as much as possible. Like most children, to experience the college entrance examination and university life, a normal and happy life can shape a healthy personality. What's more, most of the happiness in life is concentrated in the student period. The Special Affairs Office quickly asked Zaohi to stop the progress of the card and transferred resources from the office to help Zaohi make up for his lessons. Zaohi's grades were not bad, and his level was above average. It's just that, because the cards have always failed recently, his mind has been lost, and everything he does seems to be a lost soul. Now that the card is made, although the state is not perfect, it can be regarded as a staged success. With a group of big guys feeding him, his academic performance quickly returned to normal, and even improved a little. Because of this episode, the progress was naturally delayed. Fortunately, there was no emergency, so it was better to go slower, and no one cared about this little time. After the first drop in temperature, Zaohi's virtual card was finally declared fully completed. When Lin Fan and Wu Yusen learned the news, they were still outside on a mission. She was afraid of the cold, so she even wore a thin cotton jacket. It's really not easy. Lin Fan returned to the car and quickly turned the air conditioner to high temperature and strong wind, rubbing his hands and said, Zaohi is relieved. They didn't dare to disturb Zaohi, but they saw him from a distance in the cafeteria several times. The child was haggard. Lin Fan wondered if she was old, and suddenly she had a motherly emotion and felt inexplicably distressed. We are just getting started. Wu Yusen smiled and drove out. A boy of this age needs to be tempered. He's in the station, and the external conditions are not as harsh as ours. That's a necessary process of self-improvement. Don't feel bad. The two's mission this time was in the wilderness. In order to get the target, they crawled in the muddy underground tunnel for a long time. Now they were dirty and wet, like mudmen. Lin Fan was a bit of a germaphobe, but there was nothing she could do in this situation. She just frowned and crawled in. It was also because of this that when she found the target, she was particularly ruthless, as if she had thrown away all the depressed emotions. Wu Yusen saw Lin Fan's embarrassed look and didn't care about his wife. The two got into the car in such a dirty state and hurried back to clean up. In comparison, Zaohe's environment in the special affairs station was really too good. Lin Fan put his hands under the vent and rubbed them continuously. That's true. No matter how miserable it is, it's not as miserable as ours. But Zaohe's ability, like Wang Fengfeng, is auxiliary, so he doesn't need to go out on the field, right? Normally, no. Wu Yusen replied, he is a card maker, and normally he helps with work permits in the station. Using blank cards will greatly increase the strength of his skills, but the things on the cards, apart from testing, they are not used in general occasions. Oh, that's right. Lin Fan slapped his hands with his fists and found that there was still a lot of mud on his hands and hurriedly looked for wet tissues to wipe them. His heroes and monsters are not used normally. Although the characters in Zaohe's cards are all very powerful, they are also relatively large in size. Moreover, the power value of those characters is reflected in the fighting plots in the anime. In real life, if a big toad or a hydra suddenly appears, everyone will panic. If Zaohe had not been taken in by the Special Affairs Office, no one would be happy. If his big Ultraman suddenly appeared on the street, maybe he will be treated as a monster and shot by planes and tanks. He can't just release monsters and then release heroes to fight, right? He did do this when testing the performance, but he can't do it all the time. The consumption of card charging is one thing, and on the other hand, these cards are equivalent to Zaohe's children, and he can't bear to see his own children killing each other. So, in summary, these powerful big guys are actually useless. If there is any use, only the housekeeper is more practical. But at home, Zaoma took care of all the housework, and Zaohe didn't even let him wash a bowl. He secretly let the housekeeper out to chat in the room a few times, but Zaoma heard it and thought he was chatting with his classmates. She pushed the door open and confiscated his mobile phone. Fortunately, Zaohe reacted quickly and took the housekeeper away in time without letting Zaoma see it. Otherwise, he would probably have to find a hypnotist from the Special Affairs Office to clean up. He can't talk, can't do housework, and he has to worry about his mother raiding the room. Zaohe rarely puts the housekeeper at home. In school, it's even more impossible to let the housekeeper come out in school. So, after all, Zaohe's cards are in a state of war readiness, but they are in an awkward situation where they can't be used on weekdays. If he hadn't known Xingqian and had been obsessed with writing Xingqian into the card, he wouldn't have worked so hard to improve his skill proficiency and thus accidentally discovered the ability to create virtual cards. In short, Zaohe is now much more mature in both skills and mentality. Not long after the Clayman Lin Fan returned, he received a notification that Xingqian had been turned into a card. When he met Zaohe face to face again, he found that he was indeed much calmer. Maybe the last card really changed his mentality a lot. The shy boy is still shy, but he has changed from a frightened deer to, isn't it that he didn't shave? Wang Fengfeng, who had made an appointment to see the scene a long time ago and came with him, interrupted Lin Fan's subjective conjecture without hesitation. Really? Lin Fan choked, and after a closer look, he saw that the child had a circle of green whiskers around his lips. Is that the relationship? Is a man's maturity determined by his beard? Lin Fan didn't understand and had the expression of an old man on the subway looking at his phone. Wu Yusen laughed on the side, and without saying whether he was right or wrong, he pushed Lin Fan, who hadn't figured it out yet, into the venue. Lin Fan, are you ready? Uncle Banhei's slightly irritable voice came from the loudspeaker. Okay. Lin Fan came back to his senses instantly. This uncle is not to be messed with. He really knows how to scold people. Banhei raised the protective film, and only Lin Fan and the little friend Zaohe, who had been waiting in the middle for a long time, were left in the venue. Hi, Zaohe. Lin Fan smiled and waved his hand and walked towards the boy. Zaohe also raised his hand with a curved corner of his mouth and replied, Sister Lin. The next moment, the laughing girl in front of him suddenly rose and turned into a huge mecha with white and red. Zaohe watched the mecha move towards him, and his heart beat faster and faster. There were mecha robots in his cards, and they were also materialized. But those were completely different from the mecha in front of him. The sense of existence, the sense of reality, everything was different. The white mecha walked step by step to Zaohe. She looked down at the boy in front of her who was looking up and stretched out her right hand with a smile. Hello, Zaohi, I'm Xingqian. He finally saw Xingqian. In my book, except for birth, other achievements require hard work to achieve. It's not easy and can be achieved in the blink of an eye. Everyone has to rely on hard work. It's not like the cool novels that are so awesome casually, isn't it? Real life is like this. This article is still closer to reality. I'll write something cooler next time, okay? Chapter 487 Star Card. Zaohi held the black hand in front of him blankly. The cold touch finally calmed his boiling head. He looked up along the black hand nail. Is this Xingqian? So this is Xingqian. Zaohi had seen photos of Xingqian, but it was far less shocking than seeing him face to face. He had done so much practice and attempts to write Xingqian into the card before. The previous virtual Mecha card was a big blow to him. After finally overcoming many difficulties and perfecting the virtual Mecha, he was confident that he could complete this mission successfully. Seeing Xingqian in front of him, he was shaken again. Can he really do it? He might. Maybe he can't. Obviously, Xingqian is Sister Lin, and her attitude is very friendly, but Zaohi just feels that he is retreating. The white Mecha is motionless, more than 3 meters tall, not as tall as the Mecha people in his card, but he feels that something is pressing towards him, and he can't help but want to retreat. Zaohi. Ban Hei's irritable voice rose again. Zaohi was startled, let go of his hand, and took a few steps back. What are you daydreaming about? Ban Hei yelled. Do you want me to help you? He couldn't stand seeing these little guys being so awkward when doing things. Don't they know that time is efficiency? Oh. Zaohi blushed and was even more at a loss. I'll start. It's okay. Don't worry about him. Even if he has a loud voice, he can't come in and hit you. Lin Fan was also afraid of the old man Bang's noise, but seeing Zaohi's pitiful appearance, he couldn't bear it after all. Just follow your own pace. Is there anything you need my cooperation? No, just stay there and don't move. Zaohi really felt much better after hearing the comfort. He glanced at the people waiting outside and knew that he couldn't delay any longer. Okay, I know. Lin Fan took a relatively comfortable posture. Zaohi had written living things, such as mice and rabbits, into the card before. The test results showed that, after writing into the card, the main body was a little wilted, but the data was still normal. After a long time, after feeding and watering, it was able to jump around again. If it weren't for the conclusion that it was harmless to living things, no one would dare to take risks with Xingqian. Lin Fan also knew the situation, and he was not worried at all. Instead, he was full of curiosity about the process of writing into the card. Zaohi calmed down and took a few steps back until he could look at Xingqian straight without having to look up. He pulled out the blank card that he had prepared long ago and held it between 2 fingers. With his other hand, he tightly grasped the wrist holding the card, closed his eyes, and lowered his head, as if concentrating. Lin Fan looked at the way he held the card with one hand and felt that it was very similar to the way he held the talisman, and he didn't know if there was any connection. Just as he was thinking, the white card gradually emitted a faint glow. First, the edge circle, and then the entire card began to light up. The light also changed from soft white at the beginning to gradually dazzling, and could not be looked directly at. Lin Fan squinted his eyes, and was thinking about whether to ask Xingqian to add a shade to the eyepiece, when he saw Zaohi throw the card up. After the card flew above his head, it defied gravity, and floated there motionless. Zaohi put his palms together, opened his eyes with a serious face, stared at the stars in front of him, and began to mutter something. The dazzling white light on the card above his head suddenly shrank. The light became soft and cocooned inside the card. Lin Fan looked over and saw a small white card with colorful white surging. The surging did not seem to be on the surface of the card, but it was like looking through a hole as big as the card to see the space inside. He wanted to continue exploring, but the light became stronger. It was not so dazzling that he could not look directly at it, but a large area of light was scattered from the card, directly embracing the stars. For a moment, Lin Fan thought of the holy light of the sky gate opening. Although she had not seen the real situation, she subconsciously had this feeling. Then, the card slowly moved above the star until it hovered above the star's head. The card that was originally upright became flat, and the scattered light inside enveloped the star's body from all angles. The stars were bathed in soft white light, and the colorful streamers on the outer armor became more obvious and began to shine. Wow, this is going to become an immortal. Wang Fengfeng, who had been watching outside with sunglasses on, was stunned. Wu Yusen crossed his arms and said nothing. On his sunglasses, lights of various colors shone, and the stars seemed to be really going to ascend to immortality. Lin Fan was attracted by this dazzling light effect at first, but after a while, she felt a suction force coming from the top of her head. It was that card. She didn't dare to look up, for fear of ruining Zaohe's plan. The suction force was vague at first, and then gradually became clear and stronger. Although she was in the Mecha, Lin Fan felt that her hair had already flown up. Even her soul was about to leave her body and fly up. She frowned and sank her center of gravity. Still couldn't resist the feeling of being sucked. Fortunately, this was the star posture, which was heavy enough. Otherwise Lin Fan suspected that she would be sucked directly into the card. People outside naturally didn't know how Lin Fan felt. They were confused as they watched Xingqian motionless, with holy light flashing on his body. Is this magic? The process of making cards has never been like this before. Xingqian couldn't see anything, and could only look at the other party on the field. Zaohe's face had begun to turn pale, with a hollowed out look, but his mouth never stopped. He had thought it wouldn't work before. The result? Worse than he thought. He thought that the virtual Mecha that had extracted some of Xingqian's data before was difficult to make, because it was purely fictional. Now that he has mastered the virtual card, it would be easy to make another one, so he came to challenge Xingqian. Before seeing Xingqian, he was still thinking that Xingqian was real, so it wouldn't be more difficult than creating it out of thin air, right? But it turned out that the process of writing into Xingqian was much more difficult than he thought. Why? Is it because Xingqian's data is too powerful? Or is it because his current ability is not enough? But no matter what, since it has begun, it can't be easily given up. Zaohe had sharpened his heart from the last card making. He felt that he still had some strength left, so he decided to persist until he could no longer persist. The longer he persisted, the higher the completion rate of the card writing, and the higher the restoration rate of the stars after the card was completed. Anyway, his life would not be in danger, and the worst that could happen was that he would be exhausted. Fight. Zaohe had already begun to grit his teeth, and sweat was pouring out from his forehead. Lin Fan could naturally see that he was in a bad state, but thinking about what Wu Yusen had said, he knew that they could not let Zaohe take risks, so he decided to respect Zaohe's efforts, tightened his core, and sank his center of gravity again and again. Zaohe's limbs began to tremble, his face was as white as a dead person, sweat was pouring down, and his mouth began to tremble. Banhei frowned, and when he turned on the microphone to intervene, he saw him flip back and fall down. Before Lin Fan could decide whether to rush over or endure it, the light on his body suddenly dissipated, and something fell down. She raised her hand to catch it. On a white card, a full body portrait of Xingqian was vivid. Xingqian hollowed out Zaohe, but he finally made it. It was not easy. Applause. Chapter 488 Shearing Ability. Lin Fan, who had cancelled her Mecha transformation, felt her whole body go limp and she collapsed. What a mistake. Just now, she was protected by Xingqian's armor, and she was highly focused, so she only felt the strong attraction, and fought against it. She didn't expect that her physical strength would also be sucked away. I'm going to fall. Lin Fan closed her eyes and leaned back resignedly, but a pair of arms firmly held her armpits. When she opened her eyes, Wu Yusen's face wearing sunglasses was right above her. How are you? He asked anxiously. Itchy. Lin Fan had never seen Wu Yusen from this angle. Handsome or not, she didn't have time to tell. She just felt that he had tickled her armpits. It was a bit embarrassing. Wu Yusen's mouth twitched slightly, knowing that she was fine, and used both hands to lift her up. Lin Fan was too lazy to move, and her whole body was like a puddle of mud. She let Wu Yusen exert force, but she didn't cooperate at all. Lin Fan, are you okay? Wang Fengfeng also arrived. I feel like my body is hollowed out. Lin Fan said weakly. In fact, it was not as serious as she said. Compared with the one who was really hollowed out, Lin Fan was just a little weak after overexerting herself. She was fine in all aspects of her spirit, but it was difficult for her to recover from the weakness for a while. After Wu Yusen withdrew his hand, she was a little shaky and out of control. Wang Fengfeng reached out to help her, but saw her fall back again. Fortunately, Wu Yusen took 2 steps forward and pushed himself over so that she had support. Lin Fan didn't need to look back to know who was behind her. She just thought it was better this way, much better than tickling her armpits. Not to mention, this height, the hardness of the chest muscles, it was really comfortable. Lin Fan felt Wu Tekin's solid muscles with the back of his head and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Thank you. Wang Fengfeng was watching the two of them from the side and didn't care about the weird feeling of being redundant. He bent down to Lin Fan's hand and looked at the star card. How is Aohi? Lin Fan raised his eyelids and looked at the child in front of him who was surrounded by a group of people and couldn't see his hair. He was a little worried. He fell down with a bang just now. Don't worry that his head will be broken. He's fine. Ban Hei came over. At least the indicators are normal. Aohi was also equipped with a data measurement instrument. Like Lin Fan, he could see data such as heart rate and blood pressure from the background. It was precisely because the data did not reach the dangerous indicators that Ban Hei did not intervene. According to his experience, Aohi was just exhausted, just like Lin Fan. However, Lin Fan had experienced a lot after all, and exhaustion was also out of experience, which was better than Aohi, an inexperienced kid. Ban Hei focused his eyes, took the card from Lin Fan's hand with both hands, and held it in his hand. Wang Fengfeng was someone who had seen the entity of the stars. After looking at the 2D card for a while, he didn't feel anything too strange, so he asked, "Can this card really release a star?" Theoretically, it is possible, but Aohi certainly doesn't have the ability to show it now. Ban Hei looked at the children who were surrounded and had not yet sat up, and shook his head. This card, the initial manufacturing, the release and control in the middle, and the repeated charging in the later stage all requires Aohi's ability to support. Ban Hei watched Aohi being put on a cart and taken away by the medical department, and then looked at Lin Fan, who was weak, but still standing well. When Lin Fan first entered the institute, he was a sickly person who couldn't even breathe evenly, and now his physique has been trained. Should he talk to Zhu Kunjun about improving the physical fitness of the clerks? Ban Hei looked at the star card in his hand, which was as realistic as a photo of the stars. TSK. I can see the card, but I don't know what the effect is. I don't know when Aohi, that kid, can recover. It's really worrying. After Ban Hei walked away cursing, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief and smiled at each other. Lin Fan's physical recovery is much easier than Aohi's. Go to the cafeteria and have a big meal, and it will take effect immediately. While watching her eat and drink, Wang Fengfeng did not forget to gossip and asked what it felt like to become an immortal. I felt like I was being sucked away and nailed to the ground. Lin Fan replied, spitting powder. If Xingchen didn't have toes, you would definitely see that I scratched the floor. Xingchen's foot armor is like a metal boot. Unlike the hand armor, each root is clearly visible and can move freely. Is the suction so strong? Wang Fengfeng supported his cheek with one hand on the table. We don't seem to move at all. Xingchen seems to be bathed in holy light, so beautiful that I almost want to kneel down and worship her. Lin Fan rolled his eyes at him. Thank you. Can a living person be worshipped casually? Do you think her life is too long? Wang Fengfeng smiled and flattered Lin Fan with a plate of fried chicken. It's almost there. You ask Brother Wu, isn't it very sacred? Wu Yusen saw Lin Fan looking at him and smiled. The light effect is quite shocking, and the old class was speechless. Ban Hei, who had a bad temper and liked to curse all the time, was stunned at that time and forgot to speak. Is that so? Wang Fengfeng raised his eyebrows proudly. But this suction you mentioned, could it be the extraction of Xingchen's entire ability or physical strength when the card is formed? Because Lin Fan and Xingchen are one, she can feel the suction, the kind of pull from the soul, so it can't be seen from the outside. Really? Lin Fan had fried chicken in his mouth but at the time I really felt that it could suck me away like a powerful vacuum cleaner. I didn't expect being made into a card to be so dangerous. I feel that the card manufacturing process, although it is a copying ability, is more like cutting and pasting. John Woo tapped the table lightly with his index finger. It's just that, because the previous subjects couldn't make a sound, I never discovered it. The previous cartoon characters, two-dimensional characters, or small animals were all characters that couldn't make a sound. Yes, yes, yes. Lin Fan put down the bowl in his hand and wiped his mouth. I feel that my ability has been cut into that card. It's not a copy, it's a cut. Otherwise, I shouldn't feel uncomfortable. How can it be so empty? So, if Zaohi's ability is strong enough to cut the stars into the card directly, then there will be no stars in the real world? Wang Fengfeng's eyes widened. Oh my god, it's scary to think about it. Didn't you talk about the possibility of a card prism before? Wu Yusen looked as if he had known it for a long time. It's just that Zaohi's ability is still far from enough now. Otherwise this ability would be very useful in combat. When encountering a monster, no matter what it is, throw the card, collect it first, and then go back to the special affairs office. There are many people who can handle it. Fast and efficient. It is simply a must-have companion for improving performance. When several people were still discussing that the nature of Zaohi's work might change in the future and become a very popular field worker, the Special Affairs Office sent Zaohi to the hospital after the examination. There was no way. Zaohi's state of exhaustion could not be recovered in a few hours. As a senior high school student who had to go home every day, it was impossible for him to stay out all night. The institute could help him avoid evening self-study and unimportant courses without noticing, but in order to avoid attracting attention in this situation, he could only find another excuse. So Zaohi's parents received a call from the school, saying that Zaohi studied too hard and was exhausted. The couple rushed to the hospital and saw their weak-looking son. Although they were puzzled as to why he was so tired when he went out in the morning, their son's grades had indeed improved recently, and his personality had become more stable. In addition, the doctor also said that he was just overtired and would be fine after a few days of rest. The couple didn't think much about it. After taking him home, they started a week-long schedule of supplementary training. Because of this sudden incident, Zaohi's parents paid more attention to their son. Zaohi's mother even took several days off to pick him up from school. Zaohi was touched, but besides being touched, he had new troubles. Zaohi's mother worked less overtime and would occasionally go to his class to deliver meals during the afternoon school break. As a result, Zaohi wanted to go to the Special Affairs Office to release the star card during the afternoon and evening self-study time, but it was impossible. Fortunately, this matter was not urgent. Banhei cursed and waited for Zaohi to come back, but there was no other way. Zaohi was immersed in this sudden increase in family warmth, and his original attention to the card also decreased. The matter of releasing the star card gradually faded in his mind. Most people would be attracted by the sudden increase in family warmth, greedy and forget about other things, right? Zaohi is just a child. Chapter 489 New Discovery in Space. The first to find something wrong was the Hamley probe. It is the probe farthest from Langsing and was sent to an orbit near Neptune to observe the mysteries at the edge of the inner solar system. On this day, the picture it sent back showed something different from usual. What is this? P Country, Astronomy Management Office. Employee A in charge of the Hamley probe pointed to a blurry photo with a few small grey dots like mosaic pixels and asked his colleague, HMM. Employee B pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose and quickly called up previous images for comparison. It looks like cosmic garbage. You know, there are always some failed launches, abandoned satellites, and rocket skins floating around in space. Yes, there are countless metal garbage, and when they are illuminated by the sun, they will form reflections and present such light effects. Employee A is new. He thought he had discovered a new celestial body or something, and was excited. After drinking this bucket of cold water, he calmed down a lot. Hey, don't lose heart, man. Employee B patted his shoulder encouragingly. When I first joined the company, I was like this too, wanting to make new discoveries every day. But after a long time, you will know that these things in the solar system are basically fixed and will not change. Astronomy has been developing for so many years, and countless telescopes and detectors have been sent out. To be honest, within the range of observation, all the celestial bodies that can be marked have already been marked. Although the solar system is very large, and they can only detect a small piece, it is easier to achieve results than discovering new celestial bodies, landing on the moon, and landing on Mars. Employee A looked at the color block in the picture with some hesitation. Is it really impossible to be something else? Well, that may not be the case. Employee B did not dare to say it for sure. Well, let's compare it again after 24 hours to see if there are any changes. Science requires a strict attitude. The two put this aside for the time being and went to do other things. The next day, Employee A excitedly opened the latest animated picture. How is it? Employee B saw that he was motionless and had already guessed. It's gone. Employee A was a little frustrated. So is it really just space metal junk that reflects sunlight at a certain angle? 9 out of 10 are. Employee B also went over to take a closer look. There was indeed nothing in the place where there was reflection yesterday. Hey, man. Don't be discouraged. Science is like this. Verification is always a long and boring process. With the comfort of his colleagues, Employee A quickly resolved his disappointment, but he did not give up completely. After half a month, the position was still empty. He finally let go of his worries and turned his attention to other aspects. The weather is getting colder and colder, and it will be December in a blink of an eye. When everyone was waiting for the first snow of this year, shocking news broke on the internet. New discovery in space. Unidentified objects are approaching Lansing. Is it an enemy or a friend? Aliens are coming. When Wang Fengfeng relayed the story to Lin Fan, he was so emotional that I thought he was the one who discovered it. Impossible. Lin Fan has learned to remain calm in the face of Wang Fengfeng's praise or criticism. She replied calmly while holding a cup of hot cocoa. Why not? As a surfer who likes to eat melons, Wang Fengfeng often feels more satisfied than a certain degree of truth. Aren't you a believer in the existence of aliens? Assuming this is true, the announcement of this kind of news is bound to cause a great deal of panic. Under uncertain circumstances, the official can only keep it secret and hold it down until it can no longer be held back. How can it be announced on its own initiative? Wang Fengfeng whistled. Minister Lin has finally grown up and can look at things from this perspective. Not bad, not bad. Thank you. Lin Fan replied perfunctorily. But this is not officially announced, it is from folk enthusiasts. Wang Fengfeng smiled maliciously, leaned forward, and crossed his phone across the table. Look. Folk enthusiasts have learned after months of observation. Lin Fan took his phone and read the news report carefully. How is it? Wang Fengfeng found that Lin Fan was getting harder and harder to tease. Unlike at the beginning, he was so startled and funny. TSK. Lin Fan returned the phone to Wang Fengfeng and drank a sip of hot cocoa. Then this person has to pray for good luck. If it is fake, then this level of rumor mongering is punishable by law. If it's true, the authorities can't have not discovered it. Then they kept silent. They must have some plan. Now that it's been destroyed by this guy, you can tell with your feet that it will not end well. But the people of P country will be dealt with by the people of P country, so they don't need to worry about it. Compared to this, Lin Fan got up and prepared to go to ZHU Kunjin to ask for the latest news. Aliens. Although she firmly believes that aliens exist, she doesn't want to meet them. Isn't it better to live a good life? Lin Fan felt heavy in her heart and felt bad, but she didn't dare to say it. P country. Starfish building. I was wrong. I was wrong. A curly man with a flushed face and sweat all over his body curled up against the wall and begged for mercy. He had been locked in this small dark room for an unknown period of time. No one talked to him, no water, no food, and a super strong spotlight was shining in his eyes all the time. He was sleepy and tired, but he couldn't sleep. This damn room was so quiet that only his heartbeat could be heard. He didn't know what was going on when he first came in, but later he thought it might be because he broke the news online about the new discovery in space. At first, he felt justified. Country P advocates freedom of speech, and what's more, what he said was all facts, with pictures and truth, and those were not made up by him. Although he stole the information accidentally, the people have the right to know the truth, and no matter who came to question him, he could not feel guilty. As a whistleblower of the facts, it would be fine if he was not awarded the Special Contribution Medal, but why was he brought here? He thought about it and couldn't figure it out, but as time passed, his originally high confidence and momentum slowly faded. No one came in at all, and no one talked to him. He didn't even know who to appeal to, let alone momentum. In the dark room, all senses gradually magnified. He felt something around him, and felt that the air became strange. He began to gradually find it difficult to breathe, his heartbeat accelerated, and sweat poured down. He felt that he was dying. What facts? What achievements? None of them could compare to the fear of death at this moment. He could no longer care about his original persistence, and cried for mercy. Please, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Let me go. I will clarify immediately. I will post a video to apologize. Admit that I was talking nonsense. I was talking nonsense. Let me go. What's the use of apologizing? As soon as he finished speaking, an angry male voice sounded. It's useful. Curly didn't know where the voice came from, but he still crawled to the middle. I admit that I lied. I spread rumors. I went to jail. I accept the punishment. The spotlight was suddenly turned off, and in the dark room, only his rapid breathing and heartbeat could be heard. Suddenly, a door opened quietly, and the light outside the door shone into the dark room. Curly felt that the air was much fresher, and he hurriedly crawled over there. Before he crawled to the door, the light suddenly disappeared. The dark room was closed again. Curly didn't know what was going on, and he heard the male voice again. It's too late. The two cold words were the last voice left for Curly outside, which completely sent him to hell. Here they come. They come. If I were to update twice a week, I would have written this in mid-May. But it's finally here. Haha, let's do it. Come on. But I still don't know how to write it. Damn it. Chapter 490 Facts. OV leaned back in the big chair with his eyes closed, and did not speak for a long time. Sir, the subordinate asked respectfully, why don't you let him come out to clarify? This seems to be more helpful to us. As long as Curly Hair posts a video saying that everything is false information he made up for traffic, won't the heat disappear? OV slowly opened his eyes. The news on the internet is true or false. As long as it is not officially certified, you can ignore it. He half lifted his eyelids and said indifferently, astronomical news is not mainstream. If it weren't for the recent wrong timing, the failure of the giant rocket launch and the successful comparison of the space shuttle in each country, this wave of heat would not have come up. He opened the cigar box, took out a cigar, put it under his nose and sniffed slowly. There are so many news about UFOs and sea monsters every year. Which year did it come true again? But the subordinate wanted to say that this time it was true, but when he saw Ovi's gaze, he instinctively stopped talking. Ovi picked up the cigar cutter and trimmed the cigar carefully, then slowly lit it. After slowly exhaling a puff of smoke, he continued. Without continuous fermentation, such news will naturally disappear in a few days. Clarify? He glanced at his subordinate coldly. Do you want to help it become a hot search again? Indeed, with the development of the internet, all kinds of new events are happening all the time. If we ignore it, or let other topics become hot searches to suppress this news, people will soon be attracted by other new things. How many people will remember astronomy, which is not very popular in the first place? On the contrary, once the clarification video was released, everyone who had almost forgotten about this matter was reminded of it and began to pay attention to it again. Even some people who had not paid attention to it before would join in because of the new popularity. Such a result is indeed not what the security department wants to see. I understand. The subordinate was taught and asked again. What about the guy who released the news without authorization? Deal with him? He suddenly laughed. Why do you use such a wording? He is a living person. The subordinate choked and muttered in his heart. He has been locked up in the underground black room. If you don't want to deal with him, do you want to invite him 40? He seemed to see the inner thoughts of his subordinates, sneered, and said, we are a free country that respects human rights. Your concept. TSK. Sorry. The subordinate apologized without thinking. Then that person Some people always think they are smart and cause trouble for others. Ovi shook the ash of his cigarette. Let our astronomy enthusiast stay there and feel the end of the universe deeply. What is the end of the universe? Ovi shrugged. Who knows? Anyway, darkness and loneliness are inevitable. Since he loves it so much, he must like them to customize the top experience service for him, right? The subordinate got goosebumps when he saw Ovi's smile and quietly left the door. Ovi restrained his smile and put the cigar aside. Turning the big chair, he looked at the sky outside the window. After a long time, a cold snort came. Idiot. Here, in ZHU Kunjan's office, Lin Fan had already got the latest first-hand news. So, UFOs are real? Lin Fan sat in the chair opposite the desk, and his body leaned forward unconsciously. ZHU Kunjan took out a folder from the drawer and handed it to her. There are UFOs, but what they are has not been confirmed. ZHU Kunjan saw Lin Fan buried in the documents, rubbing his fingers boredly, and wanted to have a cigarette. But in the end, he held back and got up to boil water for tea. Logically speaking, aerospace is not within ZHU Kunjan's scope of involvement. As the head of the Special Affairs Office, he is good at the fields on the ground, underground, and even in the sky and the sea, but has never been involved in space. But since Xingqian successfully traveled to and from space and served as the first trigger echelon of the contact mission, ZHU Kunjan also began to learn relevant knowledge. There is no way not to learn. When he quarreled with Cui Yan, he couldn't understand what he said. Cui Yan, this damn kid, used this as an excuse, saying that he was not suitable to lead Xingqian. Until now, he has not stopped thinking about snatching people. ZHU Kunjan naturally couldn't let himself be in a passive position, and he couldn't admit defeat no matter what. So at his age, he started learning astronomy knowledge from scratch. Not to mention other things, just for Lin Fan, he had to learn. He didn't understand mechas, but at least he had to know what the child was facing. ZHU Kunjan looked at Lin Fan, whose eyes were serious, across the desk. He hoped that the child would be capable, but he didn't want her to be too capable. So, whenever something happened in those untouchable places, she would be the first to be on standby. With a beep, the water boiled. ZHU Kunjan rummaged through the drawer and found a bag of good tea that someone had sent. Lin Fan frowned as he looked at the silver white object in the space photo. This thing does look like a flying vehicle, but it's still too far away. Aren't there any clearer photos? No. ZHU Kunjan shook his head slowly. This is already the clearest photo taken by the space probe. Unless it gets closer, it's impossible to tell what kind of existence it is at this distance. There are many space junk that failed to launch, or failed in space, and have been floating in disorder. So even if that thing looks like something, it's impossible to tell what it is by looking at its distant outline without getting close. Get closer. Lin Fan's mouth twitched. It's not that she thinks too much. If it's a piece of junk, get closer. What if there are living things on it, and they get close enough to distinguish them? Is that really okay? The report said that this unidentified object has existed for a long time, but it has not always been observed. Because it sometimes appears and sometimes disappears, observers did not pay much attention to it in the early days, thinking it was just space junk or an ordinary celestial body. It was originally thought that it disappeared because of the reflection of the angle or the change of floating direction. But everyone knows that in space, without power, the direction of movement of everything is either affected by the gravity of the celestial body, or it is floating in disorder. For example, the spacecraft that Lin Fan escorted into space before was flying in low Earth orbit because of the influence of the gravity of Langsing. In this case, no additional power is needed. The astronauts in the shunting must also tie the safety rope when they go out of the cabin to work. The current spacesuits do not have a power system. Once they are unfortunately out of control, there is no way to return to the space station by themselves. They can only drift in space and watch the oxygen run out. Let's talk about the unidentified object in front of us. Later, someone discovered that it would disappear behind a certain star every time and reappear soon after. At this time, someone asked, does it have autonomous power? Every time it disappears, it is exploring various stars. This conjecture is too bold, but it is actually reasonable. At the end of the file, it says that a friendly message has been sent through the nearest spacecraft, and a piece of audio has been successfully obtained, but it has not been cracked so far. What kind of audio is it? Lin Fan asked, after closing the file. Can I listen to it? ZHU Kunjin quickly found the file to play. Lin Fan frowned after listening carefully. Why is this similar to the sound of the telephone pulse in the past? It's long and short, not a fixed frequency. It does sound like some kind of signal. But it's definitely intercepted from a UFO, isn't it, Langsing? Yes, so some people suspect that there may be intelligent creatures similar to us on the other side. But to crack it, I think it's difficult. ZHU Kunjin crossed his hands and leaned back in his chair. Langsing has established the Morse code, the pattern of sending radio signals. If you get a pulse sound like this, you can crack it a little. But if it's really feedback from aliens, do they also have this kind of code system? Lin Fan thought. What he said made sense, and after thinking about it, he asked again. Then since the news on the internet is true, does the official have to certify it? Of course not. ZHU Kunjin smiled and shook his head. Although the news on the internet is not completely false, the situation has not been confirmed yet. If the news is announced rashly, it will cause panic among the people. This kind of panic is not only meaningless, but also disrupts the normal order of life. So even if aliens really exist, no official will announce the news before getting accurate information. Normal living order is the foundation of social stability. Even country P does not want a turbulent country G. To make an inappropriate analogy, if a meteorite is bound to hit Langsing, the world will be destroyed. As an ordinary person, do you want to know in advance, live in panic every day, and have all kinds of mental imbalances, or do you want to live happily until the last moment of your life without knowing the truth? Lin Fan nodded. That's just the happiness of ordinary people. We will do something, right? Of course. ZHU Kunjin smiled knowingly. Many people are busy with this matter, but you just don't know it. I didn't want to tell you before the news was confirmed, but I didn't expect you to come and ask. He saw Lin Fan's progress, and the child was getting more and more perceptive. Then what can I do? Lin Fan's sense of responsibility rose again. Do you need me to confirm it? Remember OV, the head of security in country P, who wanted to catch Lin Fan. Chapter 491 Kuiper Belt. In Lin Fan's opinion, Xingqian can move freely in space. Letting her confirm the unidentified object should be the fastest and best way. But ZHU Kunjin shook his head. You don't have to go. It's too dangerous. After the plane landed, the Space Administration Center assigned Xingqian several more tasks. Among them were the flight distance test to the apogee and the orbit around Langsing according to the moon. During the boring flight, Lin Fan watched the grey moon gradually grow larger, and the round moon filled her entire field of vision, and then passed by her, and gradually moved away behind her. Because the mission order only allowed orbiting, not landing, she could only watch eagerly. Landing on the moon, an achievement that can be boasted for a lifetime. She was itching to do it, but in the end she only stayed in the thought. The Space Administration Center is also slowly exploring the capabilities of Xingqian. Science is never achieved overnight. Even if Xingqian has shown obvious advantages, they dare not take two big steps in space without external assistance. Bullshit is small. If Xingqian is lost, it will not be worth the loss. So each mission is progressing gradually. If nothing unexpected happens, we should be able to land on the moon next time. According to the current data, the farthest distance that the stars can reach is 400,000 kilometers, which is also the distance from Langsing to the moon, and in the Earth-Moon orbit, it can move freely without being affected by other external gravity. But in the photo, the location of the unidentified object is in the Kuiper Belt outside the orbit of Neptune. What is the Kuiper Belt? The new term touched Lin Fan's blind spot again. ZHU Kunjin calmly opened the content that he had searched and added to the favorites before. It's the asteroid belt. Do you know the 8 planets? Yes. Lin Fan nodded and replied, I learned it at the launch center before. According to the distance from the sun, they are Mercury, Venus, Langsing, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Because the moon revolves around Langsing, it is a satellite of Langsing, forming a unique Earth-Moon system. Yes. ZHU Kunjin looked at her with a smile. Then you should also know that there is a circle of asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Yes. Lin Fan continued, affected by the gravity of the Sun and Jupiter, this area gathers about 500,000 asteroids. It is the most densely populated area of asteroids, and also the main belt asteroids. Asteroids are celestial bodies that revolve around the Sun, but are much smaller in size and mass than planets. They are the most numerous celestial bodies in the solar system. There are generally several theories about the formation of asteroids, among which the most mainstream theory is they evolved from microplanets during the formation of the solar system. There are already a lot of asteroids in the asteroid belt, but they are still increasing every year. Simply put, an asteroid is any small celestial body in the solar system that revolves around the Sun and has a diameter of 1 to 1000 meters, but is not a comet. A comet, also known as a broom star, is also a celestial body that revolves around the Sun. Its size and mass are very small, but its external morphology changes differently depending on its distance from the Sun. When it is far from the Sun, it is just a dirty ice ball made up of ice and dust. But once it approaches the Sun, under the effect of solar radiation, the cometary material changes and decomposes into a comet head and a comet tail. So comets are particularly easy to distinguish. When you look up at the starry sky, there is a celestial body in the sky that drags a tail like a broom, which is a comet. Then someone will ask, isn't that a meteor? Of course not. A meteor refers to a meteoroid moving in space. That is, when cosmic dust or solid blocks approach a blue planet, they are attracted by the gravity of the blue planet and enter the blue planet. When they pass through the atmosphere at high speed, electron transitions produce light trails. Most visible meteors are about the size of sand grains and will burn up before landing. A small number of meteors that fall to the ground can still remain, which is called meteorites. In terms of internal structure, meteors contain more iron, nickel, sulfur, silicon and other minerals that are native to the blue planet. Therefore, meteorites are generally called meteorite iron, and in ancient times, they were even used to cast swords. The internal substances of comets are mainly water, methane, cyanide, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc. So under certain conditions, they condense into ice. In summary, comet is a celestial body orbiting the Sun whose shape and brightness are affected by the distance from the Sun. Meteors are a kind of light effect produced by friction and combustion after meteoroids enter the atmosphere, and because of the different internal substances, the color and shape of the burning are not fixed. Continued from the main text, ZHU Kunjin looked at Lin Fan talking eloquently and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Young people's brains are good, and continued to switch web pages with the mouse quietly. That's right, he praised. Now that we know about the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt is easier to understand. It is a dense disc-shaped area of celestial bodies outside the orbit of Neptune, near the ecliptic plane. You can think of it as an enlarged version of the asteroid belt. The ecliptic plane refers to the orbital plane of Lansing's revolution around the Sun. When Lansing is revolving, the sphere is tilted to a certain extent. Therefore, the equatorial plane and the ecliptic plane form an angle of about 23 degrees. Although this angle is not large, it is not small when extended in the vast space. The asteroids in the Kuiper belt are basically distributed in this angle area, forming a three-dimensional ring similar to a donut. According to scientific estimates, the width of the Kuiper belt is about 20 times that of Jupiter's asteroid belt, and the weight is 20 to 200 times. Just looking at the numbers, you can imagine that there are countless celestial bodies in it. Lin Fan's eyes widened. Isn't that a large area of densely packed asteroids? Yes, because it is at the edge of the solar system. There is a saying that the Kuiper belt is the protection belt of the solar system, but there is also a saying that the Kuiper belt is an obstacle to outward exploration. Both statements reflect the barrier function of the Kuiper belt. Lin Fan reacted quickly. Is it because there are too many asteroids? It makes it difficult for celestial bodies or other things in the outer solar system to enter the solar system? ZHU Kunjin nodded. The Kuiper belt itself has orbital resonance, and Neptune's gravity makes these orbits unstable. Some celestial bodies will be sent into the solar system, and some will be dispersed and sent out, thus forming many unstable blank areas inside the Kuiper belt. and because of different gravitational forces, different orbital areas, different sizes and groups of celestial bodies, various factors affect the resonance frequency inside the Kuiper belt. I don't quite understand the specific principles, but the final result is that it forms a natural barrier between the inner and outer solar systems. ZHU Kunjin is not an astronomical researcher after all, so it's good enough that he can figure this out. But you said that the unidentified object is in the Kuiper belt. Lin Fan didn't understand again. Since it is a barrier, then, assuming it is really something like a spaceship, it is not surprising that it can pass safely in the Kuiper belt. ZHU Kunjin picked up the teacup and took a sip of water. What is difficult for us may not be difficult for other technological levels. Didn't it say that Nuwa drove a spaceship here and left 5,000 years ago? Yes, Lin Fan forgot about this. The shuttle is still buried underground. Since they can get in, they must have their own way. Besides, this is not the first time. ZHU Kunjin said calmly. A few years ago, Country P once discovered an object suspected to be a spaceship in the Kuiper belt. First of all, I wish all the students taking the college entrance examination today, all the answers they can rely on, all the answers they can guess are correct, and they can all enter their ideal universities. I carefully looked up the information for today's popular science. I didn't expect that I would have to study astronomy at this age. After all, I will go to space later, and I have to have a concept of these stars and so on, right? There are too many nouns. So I explained them in the text in case you don't understand them. You can't expect people to go to Beidou to read a novel, right? It would be best if people can understand the content of the novel, and it would be even better if it can add some extra knowledge. Haha, this is a science fiction article, although it's just a little bit. Hehe. Chapter 492 Joint Exercise. Oh, what's going on? Lin Fan perked up. Suspected means uncertain. Is it the same as this one? How did you deal with it later? ZHU Kunjin had done his homework before, and he spoke without hesitation. The probe discovered it first, but the technology level at that time was much worse than it is now, and the imaging was not very clear. The photos taken were even blurrier than this one. The beat belt is far from the sun, so it is a relatively dark area that is not very clear. In addition, there are many asteroids and celestial bodies. Generally speaking, it is really not easy to find something that is not particularly obvious. Just like this unidentified object this time, if it had not appeared many times with obvious white reflections and appeared repeatedly, they might not have taken it seriously until now. How was it discovered? Lin Fan was curious. In the beginning, it was because of its fast self-rotation speed, which made it particularly conspicuous among the slow-moving celestial bodies around it. ZHU Kunjin replied, after the detector got there, it caused signal interference. Then what? Nothing else. ZHU Kunjin curled his lips. Before they could see clearly what it was, the signal was cut off. Ah. Lin Fan leaned back. So they didn't see anything? Well, after passing a certain area, the signal automatically recovered. Of course, the thing that was suspected before could not be seen. ZHU Kunjin sighed softly. The technological level of Country P was still good at that time. They thought that, since that thing could emit interference signals, it was very likely a spaceship. But over the years, this has only happened once, and there was no way to verify it later, so it is only a suspicion until now. So that spaceship didn't come in? Lin Fan raised his eyebrows. Because it can't break the defense of the Kuiper belt. I don't know the specific reason. Anyway, if it was really a spaceship, it should not have come in that year. After all, there was no special abnormality afterwards. ZHU Kunjin replied. Then this unidentified object is not emitting any interference signals? Lin Fan scratched his nose. Does it mean that it may not be a spaceship? Who knows? ZHU Kunjin shook his head. Maybe the current telescopes are more resistant to interference? This statement is a bit nonsense. Lin Fan complained in his heart. Their spaceship has arrived at the door. How can it lack this little bit of anti-interference ability? It's better to say that they don't care, that the people on Langsing know they are coming. So, think about it in a positive way. Even if it is a spaceship, they may not be able to break through the Kuiper belt and enter the solar system, right? Lin Fan didn't really want an alien spaceship to arrive at his doorstep, so he could only think positively. Yeah. ZHU Kunjin nodded. Our people have also discussed it with astronomical experts from several other countries, and they think it is more likely to be a celestial body or space junk than a spaceship. But if it is a spaceship, the possibility of not being able to get in is also very high. What if it gets in? Lin Fan covered her mouth as soon as she asked, and then quickly poo. ZHU Kunjin smiled with narrowed eyes when he saw her like that. When the time comes, what to do? Lin Fan didn't dare to ask further, fearing that she would say something unlucky. Don't accuse her of being superstitious. You have to know that this is a special affairs office. What strange things have not happened? As far as she knows, Crow's mouth is real, so she should say less. Everyone who wants to know has known it. Just when she was thinking about finding an excuse to end this conversation, ZHU Kunjin's phone rang, and Lin Fan took the opportunity to withdraw from the office. She was sad and a little confused. She comforted herself not to think too much. Most things in the world are just scaring yourself. What the unidentified object is, there will naturally be professionals to determine, and there is no point in her thinking about it here. Suddenly, she understood why the higher-ups concealed the news. She was also a person with some knowledge. Knowing this uncertain information, she began to worry unconsciously, not to mention ordinary people. Lin Fan sighed heavily and decided to throw these meaningless worries away. Since ZHU Kunjin looked calm, it proved that they were not unprepared. Just like he said, we can just do what we need to do when the time comes. There is no point in worrying now. Lin Fan tried to convince herself, but she still couldn't feel relaxed. She wanted to find John Woo, but she wondered if she was too dependent on him. After a little hesitation, she ran to the cafeteria to have some fun. If the sky falls, there will be a group of tall people to support it. With her low IQ, she should not get involved in high-level games. Lin Fan had a big meal in the cafeteria and finally calmed down and relaxed herself. The next day, the Gossip King brought her the latest news. The various armies have started joint exercises. Lin Fan immediately thought of the unidentified object in the sky. Yeah, it's very lively. As a backbone of the information department, Wang Fengfeng knew as much about the inside story as Lin Fan. Look at the news these 2 days. All kinds of fighter planes and warships have come out, and the video of Hurricane Express has come out. Lin Fan was not a person who actively paid attention to the news. Anyway, after arriving at the Special Affairs office, Wang Fengfeng would report everything to her. Moreover, because of the unidentified object incident, she was afraid of seeing any strange news that would cause unnecessary worries, so she tried to stay as far away as possible. Wang Fengfeng clicked a few times on his phone, brought up the exciting video, and handed it to Lin Fan. Fighter planes flew in neat formations in the air. On the sea, neatly lined ships also rode the wind and waves with high spirits. The scene turned, and the tracks of the armored vehicle passed in front of the camera, giving a strong sense of oppression. Then rockets were ejected from the barrel, and after a flash of fire, huge smoke and dust rose in the distance. The scene was short but powerful, and with the exciting music, it ignited a fire in the hearts of everyone who saw it. Lin Fan's eyes were a little sore after watching it, and he clicked on the comments. The big words of praise the motherland's strength, advanced technology, and so on. Some people also guessed whether a war was about to break out. Why did they suddenly start a military exercise? There were even some people cheering and wishing that the fight would start immediately. Lin Fan returned the phone to Wang Fengfeng. It would be best if he practiced every day. Are some people stupid? They can't enjoy a good life. Wang Fengfeng raised his lips. As for keyboard warriors, it's not a big deal, as long as it doesn't hurt themselves. You can dominate the universe easily by typing on the keyboard. Lin Fan looked at him in surprise. Are you scolding yourself with this? Wang Fengfeng choked and rolled his eyes. How can I be the same as them? I'm a professional keyboard worker with correct values. Okay, I was wrong. I apologize to you. Lin Fan smiled, gave Wang Fengfeng a chicken wing, and said, it's good to rehearse and warm up in the name of exercise, but what about the people? There are billions of people in the world, and ordinary people still account for the vast majority. although it is feared that it will cause panic. If it really comes to the worst, what will happen to these people who don't know the inside story and are powerless to resist? Therefore, technological development is still very important. With advanced technology, we can discover many dangers in advance. With backward technology, we can only wait. Yesterday, a boy commented that I wrote well and said that I could become a god if I continued to write. Hahaha, I was very happy. I have no way to repay you, so I can only keep working hard. Thank you for your love. Sending love. Biu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493 Evacuation Drill. Look at this. Wang Fengfeng opened another news page and handed the phone to Lin Fan. Provinces, cities, autonomous regions and municipalities directly under the central government cooperate in joint exercises to carry out shelter evacuation and self-rescue exercises. Lin Fan read out the title directly. Now there are probably more people who want to fight. Sure enough, when she opened the comment area, she couldn't bear to watch it. She raised her eyebrows and stuffed the phone directly to Wang Fengfeng. So now, under the name of the exercise, let everyone preview the process of escaping to the shelter in advance. Lin Fan thought about it and asked, will this work? She knew that there were shelters under the major parks and squares in her hometown of Yangcheng. She thought that other cities should be similar, with sufficient underground shelters. But because each country has been very peaceful since it built G, the shelter has never been used, and few people know what it looks like underneath. Whether it works or not, this is the only way. Wang Fengfeng shrugged. I can't tell the truth, and I have to prepare in advance, improving comprehensive combat capabilities while doing evacuation training. These are all correct procedures. What the unidentified object is cannot be confirmed yet. If it is too early, it will cause panic and unrest. If it is found that it is not a threat, the public will be angry, and it will have a great impact on the stability of the Z country. But it is impossible to do nothing. Under the current situation, the public should be guided to enter the underground shelter quickly. It is an exercise, but if there is any danger, the early development of escape awareness can play a certain role and minimize the loss of personnel. The problem lies in this uncertainty. But this kind of thing cannot be blamed. The level of technology is here. The joint exercise lasted for a long time, and everyone applauded. The national pride and overall cohesion of each country were greatly improved. But the shelter exercise was not implemented very well. The group of people who fought with weapons in the past are already old, not to mention the younger generation. Even the middle-aged and elderly people in their 50s and 60s have not experienced it personally. In addition, in recent years, the economy has developed rapidly, and the people have long been accustomed to a peaceful and comfortable life, and have no idea of the pain when the crisis comes. Sometimes, even some commemorative activities to remember the past and remember history are not as important as their dancing and singing in the eyes of some people. Everyone is protected too well, and suddenly there is such a mandatory exercise, and many people complain. Yes, the shelter exercise is mandatory, and it is passed down and implemented by each level of official agencies, and it is also used as an assessment task. Some people believed the recent rumors that there would be a fight on the internet, and they were relatively cooperative. But some people were very uncooperative, thinking that mobilizing a large number of troops, looking for trouble, and wasting their time and money. The cooperation of big cities is relatively strong. Economically developed cities, such as Gao and Sijiu, have also made many small rewards to mobilize the enthusiasm of the people. But down to the 3rd and 4th county cities, the execution is not so good. Don't think about rewards. It's okay if you meet obedient ones. I won't talk about whether they are rude or not, but at least they have completed the task. Going down to some towns or relatively remote areas, the degree of cooperation is even lower. The people below are not aware of such a thing. What should we do? Lin Fan frowned. If the policy coverage is not in place, if something goes wrong, The essence of the shelter drill is to let everyone know how to run to a safe place as quickly as possible when an accident occurs. Don't let there be nowhere to hide when the time comes. In this situation, there is no way to hold anyone accountable for the time being. Wu Yusen shook his head helplessly. If you don't think about the future, you will have immediate worries. Fortunately, the completion rate has reached more than 75%, and most schools, enterprises, and institutions are relatively cooperative. But even so, it cannot guarantee that everything will be covered. Each country is too big, with too many branches, and it is impossible to clean it up in a short time. What about the remaining 25%? Lin Fan looked incredulous. Just ignore it. Combined with the population of each country, this 25% is not a small number. We can't say we don't care, but we can only do our best and leave it to fate. Wu Yusen sighed and pinched his eyebrows. You should be mentally prepared. Once a critical situation occurs, we can't save everyone. Every day, the number of casualties in the world due to various accidents is itself a very scary number. Once there is an invasion by alien forces, the huge gap in strength means that the battle will be tragic and casualties will be impossible to control. The best way is to let ordinary people hide in underground bunkers, but many people are unaware of it, so they don't cooperate. Although the official has not released any news about the unidentified object, the rumors about the fight that have been circulating online have not been refuted, just to make the public have a certain sense of crisis. Sensitive people can already feel that something is going to happen, but there are always people who are stubborn. The comments behind are also a boiling condemnation. The people above are already busy, but the people they want to protect don't cooperate. Lin Fan feels tired just by listening to the news, not to mention those who are executing. Despite this, many people are still under various pressures and insist on executing their work. But there is really a small group of people who probably can't get over the rebellious period. No matter what others say, they just want to be stubborn. If you really encounter this situation, you can only give up after several attempts to persuade them and transfer your energy to other people. Lin Fan sighed. It turns out that only you can be responsible for your life. Don't worry about these things. Generally speaking, economically developed coastal areas are more likely to become targets, and those places with low cooperation may not have any crisis at all. Wu Yusen didn't dare to tell her that, if a real fight broke out, victory or defeat would be filled with human lives, and these numbers would not matter at all at that time. Seeing that she looked unhappy, he changed the subject. Have your parents arranged everything? Well, my father was a soldier in the past, and my mother and I were both members of advanced organizations, so we always cooperated. Lin Fan smiled when she said this. She called home as soon as she knew the situation, fearing that the old couple would not cooperate. But in fact, it was completely different from what she imagined. The elderly of their age group, and the elderly who are older, are more cooperative. Maybe they have suffered together since the founding of the group, and their collective consciousness is very strong. In addition, Lin's father has a sense of honor for others, so every time he takes Lin's mother with him, he cooperates very well, and also regains the feeling of performing tasks in the army. He also analyzed several different situations with my mother, which route to the shelter is safer at home, in the mall, and in the market, and what to do if they are separated. Lin Fan smiled and shook his head. After I heard his plans, I felt that their veterans are really amazing. That's right. Wu Yusen was also proud of it. What you learn in the military will accompany you for a lifetime. Lin Fan asked about the situation of Wu's father and mother. Of course, Wu Yusen had arranged everything for the two elders early in the morning. Lin Fan talked and laughed with him, and just when he felt a little relaxed, a text message popped up on his mobile phone. The UFO has broken through the Kuiper belt and is approaching Langsing. Level 1 alert is activated immediately. Because the international melee did not start before, I threw away other countries and mainly reflected the measures of each country. Peace is really happiness. Chapter 494 Grow 7963. Lin Fan's face suddenly changed. What's wrong? Wu Yusen came over to take a look. His face was also very ugly. He took out his mobile phone. I didn't receive the message. It was a message from the Space Administration. Lin Fan glanced at the sender and replied, "It has not yet reached the alert stage of the Special Affairs Office. Although Xingchen belongs to the Special Affairs Office, because of her special nature, she is on the first alert list of the Space Administration." Before Wu Yusen could think of what to say, Lin Fan's phone rang again. It was Zhu Kunjin. "Lin, are you in the office? Come to my office immediately." Lin Fan immediately rushed to his office. Wu Yusen hesitated for a moment and followed quickly. Zhu Kunjin saw Wu Yusen and Lin Fan came in together and didn't say anything. He pointed to the folder on the desk in a deep voice. "Take a look first. Didn't you say that you can't fly out of the Kuiper belt?" Lin Fan stood opposite the desk and dragged the folder over to open it, frowning, and his tone was full of anxiety. "According to the previous analysis, it is not a problem if you don't fly out of the Kuiper belt. If you fly out of the Kuiper belt, it will basically be a big trouble." John Woo stood beside her, put his hand on her shoulder, and gently pressed, "Don't worry." Lin Fan looked back, and John Woo's black pupils revealed a calmness. Suddenly, he remembered what he said before, that being anxious can easily lead to mistakes. He suppressed the restlessness in his heart, exhaled a breath, and sat on the chair. John Woo automatically poured them water. In the latest photos, the unidentified object can already be seen with a clear outline. It is not like the majestic spaceship in the film and television works. It just looks like an irregularly shaped celestial body. The gray-white reflection that seemed obvious before is not so obvious, and the whole thing presents a dark gray tone. Is it this? Why doesn't it look like it? Lin Fan looked at something that was completely different from what he expected and asked, "Is it a mistake? It shouldn't be wrong." Zhu Kunjin still had a habitual smile on his face, but his face was full of solemnity. Since they confirmed the doubt, they have locked onto this thing. They have also exchanged information with several other countries. This is it. As the first discoverer, Country P obtained the priority naming right and named it Grow 7963. It is said that the name Grow was chosen after careful selection, and I don't know where to find the name of the god of doom. Lin Fan was speechless when he knew it. Is this afraid that he can't kill himself? These foreign devils really don't know the taboos at all. Zhu Kunjin was angry, but there was nothing he could do. "I just hope they don't have the word spirit over there." The word spirit is also a special ability in the Special Affairs Office. What you say has special abilities and comes true. The crow's mouth is actually a branch of the word spirit, but compared to the crow's mouth, which can only not work for good, but work for bad, the word spirit has a wider range of effects, and is more popular. But because of this special ability, they are also subject to many restrictions. Generally speaking, small things are basically alright, and big things depend on the probability. The bigger the thing, the lower the probability of it becoming a reality, but it is not impossible to achieve it. Similarly, the price of realization is one's own spiritual power. Small things consume a little, big things consume a lot. Someone once overdrew himself to death because of boasting, so the lineage of word spirits is more cautious in speaking, especially for matters of life and death. They will not easily speak. But these are people who have entered the Special Affairs Office, know the characteristics of word spirits, and understand their own situation. If you don't know that you have the attributes of word spirits at all, just think you are lucky and use your abilities at will. It's hard to say. Zhu Kunjin is not naive enough to think that only Country H has people with supernatural powers. He just hopes that there are no word spirits among those who participate in the Grow project in Country P. Otherwise, no one can say whether the extremely small probability will come true. The god of doomsday. That would be a disaster without any cause. Lin Fan has seen the back. How is Grow's power? There is no obvious sign of power at present. Zhu Kunjin still has a glimmer of hope. Although Grow left the Kuiper belt, it is possible that it was pulled in by the gravity of Neptune. Lin Fan looked up at Zhu Kunjin, said nothing, and lowered his head again. What's wrong? Wu Yusen saw the disapproval in Lin Fan's eyes. Is there anything wrong? Neptune's gravity is not strong, and the possibility of a celestial body as large as Grow being sucked into the inner orbit by gravity is too small. Lin Fan replied without raising his head. Generally speaking, the size and mass of a celestial body are proportional. Although Gro has an irregular shape, astronomers still estimated its approximate diameter as a spherical celestial body, based on the data sent back, which is 150 kilometers. That is about the straight line distance from Gao to Hangzhou. Such a huge behemoth in the Kuiper belt, ignoring the influence of various external factors, has been advancing into the inner circle, and was finally pulled into the inner orbit by the negligible gravity of Neptune. It's impossible no matter how you look at it. So, it can't be a natural celestial body? Wu Yusen understood immediately. The possibility is infinitely close to zero. Lin Fan sighed. She didn't want to accept such a result at all, but facts are facts, and they don't disappear just because they are denied. Now NASA keeps sending signals to Gro, but there has been no response except for the first time, so some people are speculating whether there are life forms inside Gro, or whether there are no life forms inside it, and it is just an autonomous spacecraft. ZHU Kunjin rubbed his fingers and wanted to smoke again. It's a nice thought. Lin Fan sneered. An unmanned spacecraft is determined to come to Lansing? What's the point? Come to check in? Anyone with eyes can see that Gro has been on a straight track to Lansing. There were times when it hid behind other celestial bodies before, but since Lansing sent it a signal, it has never taken a detour again. ZHU Kunjin frowned. A spacecraft that is obviously superior to Lansing's technology is coming towards them, which is not a good thing, no matter how you look at it. Didn't they say before that they received some signal and have been trying to crack it? Wu Yusen asked. If we can crack it. Don't say that we can't crack it. Even if we can crack it, and they reply with good news, can we believe it? ZHU Kunjin looked at Wu Yusen and felt that he was still naive. We are the passive party. We must be prepared for the worst. This news should not be announced, right? Lin Fan looked up and asked ZHU Kunjin. It's not time yet. ZHU Kunjin shook his head slowly. Wait a little longer. Even if they are really malicious, to be honest, it doesn't make much difference for ordinary people to know it earlier or later. If it really comes to that, they will give us enough time to enter the shelter. In the face of the high-level technological gap, people are no different from ants. Not to mention ordinary people. Even the elites of the military may not have any advantage. Even ZHU Kunjin has a faint worry in his heart. He is afraid that the people of the Special Affairs Office may not have much advantage. Look at Lin Fan, who is still buried in the documents. If the aliens coming are all like Xingqian, then will they resist or not? ZHU Kunjin, fight. We can't win. Don't fight. It's impossible. Please don't be an alien like Xingqian. Why do I vaguely remember that I wrote about Yanling before? Does anyone remember? It's been too long since I started writing, and I don't remember many of the previous plots. If it's not written here, then it must be in other articles. My brain. I broke the record yesterday, and the subscription was 0. I want to take a screenshot to commemorate it. Hahaha. 4 is not the lowest. Chapter 495. Looking for a female ugly. Lin Fan was naturally unaware of ZHU Kunjin's worries, as she was still reading the document. It says here that it takes an average of about 10 years for Hamley and other probes to travel from Lansing to Neptune. She looked up at ZHU Kunjin for confirmation. With such a long distance, even if Gro entered the inner orbit, it would not be able to reach Lansing for a while, right? Lin Fan breathed a sigh of relief. She almost forgot that the distance between Neptune and Lansing was not short, not to mention the Jupiter asteroid belt. The Hamley probe's flight speed was considered fast, reaching 50,000 kilometers per hour. It also took a long time to get some gravitational acceleration when passing by the planets. Even if Gro was flying fast, it couldn't arrive in the blink of an eye, right? Lansing is now well prepared, and all defense preparations have been activated. If Gro really wants to fly to the doorstep, even if it doesn't take 10 years, it will take 6, 7, or 8 years, right? Or cut it in half, 5 years. Even if it takes 2 or 3 years, and Zooping betrays again. No, sacrifice, and get more high-tech from the world tree. Maybe the technological defense can be improved. In this way, we don't have to be so nervous for the time being. When Lin Fan first received the text message, he thought the spacecraft had already reached the orbit of Lansing. You are still taking it for granted. ZHU Kunjin sighed. We took it for granted before, thinking that Gro couldn't break through the Kipper belt. And what happened? Lin Fan joked. For an unnatural celestial body that can break through the Kipper belt, I don't think its speed will be lower than that of the Hamley probe. ZHU Kunjin shook his head slowly. Although the speed has not yet been demonstrated, no one dares to underestimate it. It is obviously higher than our technological level. How to estimate it? There is no way to estimate it. Yes. People can usually only look back to the past to learn from experience, but they can't predict the unknown at all. But what can we do? Lin Fan was confused. I think Gro looks a bit like a shuttle. Wu Yusen frowned and interrupted. He had been looking over for a long time. He felt a sense of familiarity when looking at the photo. After thinking about it, an idea suddenly occurred to him. Lin Fan and ZHU Kunjin turned to him instantly. Back then, the outer layer of the shuttle was also a stone surface like this underground. We initially thought it was a city wall. Wu Yusen looked at Lin Fan. Did you forget? Yes. Lin Fan also remembered, after he reminded him. It was because of this layer of camouflage that they initially thought it was an underground city. It was also later when Lin Fan had control and accidentally changed the outer camouflage effect that the metal shell of the shuttle appeared in front of everyone. You mean, the stone surface in the photo, which looks like a strange celestial body, is also a disguise of Gro? ZHU Kunjin leaned forward and almost stood up from his seat. It's very likely. Lin Fan reacted. It does look a bit like the shuttle at the beginning. ZHU Kunjin retrieved the shuttle's file and found the photo of the stone surface for comparison. It does look like it. It does look like it. But no matter how similar it is, it's just their speculation. How to confirm it is a difficult problem. Not many people knew about the shuttle. Apart from the old man, there were only the personnel related to the Special Affairs Office and the 800 personnel related to the Special Affairs Office. Only the top leaders of the Space Administration knew about it, and the Astronomical Bureau knew nothing about it. If they wanted to cross-check, they would have to let more people know about this hidden secret, and the prerequisite was to apply for permission from the higher authorities. But ZHU Kunjin was worried that the current information would not be of much help, even if they knew it. On the contrary, if more people knew about the shuttle, it would be easy for something to go wrong. How about? Lin Fan rolled his eyes and suggested, let's ask the ugly woman. Hasn't she seen Nua's spaceship? Maybe she has seen these things. At least, she should have more knowledge in this area than us, right? Although the ugly woman slept for thousands of years, when she was awake, she should have seen spaceships, shuttles, world trees, these things. Moreover, she had ridiculed the backwardness of current technology at the beginning, so she should have seen advanced technology. In addition, there are still unknown technological capabilities in the world tree, and the ugly woman's control over the shuttle. ZHU Kunjin's eyes lit up, and he thought it was a good idea to ask the ugly woman for help. Although the clown is not a regular employee, it is also risky to tell her such confidential information. But the clown's social circle is small. Compared with telling a lot of people about the shuttle, telling the clown about Gro will involve the least people. ZHU Kunjin started to follow the procedures without saying anything. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen looked at each other and retreated quietly. Don't worry. Wu Yusen saw that Lin Fan had a droopy face and looked uninterested. He took her shoulder and led her to the side. Didn't you say it wouldn't be so fast? I thought it was just above my head just now. It's still far away. Lin Fan was a little confused. Whether it is far or not depends on Gro. But when she looked up and saw Wu Yusen's shallow smile, she felt much more at ease. She pulled her lips, but she didn't know if she smiled. Let's go and find Jin Sichin. Wu Yusen walked forward with someone. Why do you want to find him? Lin Fan blinked. Why did he suddenly talk about Jin Sichin? If you want to ask a serious question to a female clown, you should go to Jin Sichin. Wu Yusen replied. Lin Fan looked at Wu Yusen's grinning white teeth. You said that, as if Zooping is not serious. But thinking about the way he deliberately exposed his chest and flesh, it seems that he is indeed not serious. Lin Fan didn't know what to say all of a sudden. His head began to imagine Zooping's showy appearance involuntarily, and soon it was filled with a bunch of messy things. The originally anxious mood was diverted like this. The female clown has been living a comfortable life recently. She is so happy eating and drinking in the luxuriously decorated cave. But recently, after watching some new videos and knowing the definition of greasy, she also felt the same. She said that when talking about greasy things, she always felt something was wrong, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. It turned out that the other party was too greasy. The female clown shook the goosebumps on her body and felt that she didn't like people who were greasy. But if she just ignored Ziozu, thinking about his healthy wheat complexion, firm muscles, hearty smile and peach blossom eyes, the ugly woman was a little reluctant. Jin Sichin came in when she was hesitating and tangled. When the ugly woman saw the enchanting handsome man walking towards her with a smile, she immediately forgot about the wild and strong man. In fact, Jin Sichin was also very handsome and gentle. Why didn't she have any thoughts about him? This thought flashed through the ugly woman's mind, but when she saw the pupils of Jin Sichin's eyes that were looming under his sunglasses, it disappeared. Why are you here today? The ugly woman was still very happy to see Jin Sichin. This little Jin was gentle, considerate, and good at talking, and she liked him very much. Of course, there is no such thing as a visit without a reason. Jin Sichin greeted the ugly woman first, and after getting a general understanding of her recent situation, he started to get down to business. He restrained his smile, took out a document from his bag, and handed it to the ugly woman solemnly. Please take a look at this first. What is it? The ugly woman took it casually without paying attention, thinking that she had been given something new. We have discovered an unnatural celestial body approaching Langsing, Grow. This chapter was originally supposed to be about an enemy at the gates, about to explode. Somehow, I suddenly had an idea and ran to Beidou to check. Wow, it takes 10 years to get from Neptune to Earth. Isn't it ridiculous to reach Earth by breaking through the Kuiper belt? Change it quickly. Find a way to make it up. No, make it round. Although science fiction is a false and empty background board in this article, the author still tries to be rigorous in the knowledge involved and strives to avoid major bugs. Sometimes I spend a lot of time looking up information, but in the end, I only write a few hundred words in the article. I just want to try to stick to the facts as much as possible in terms of existing knowledge and not to cause any misleading. Although I update it one by one now, I'm still very serious when writing articles. There were a few times when I felt that the writing was not good after writing it, so I rewrote it all. At least I can show it to others when I'm satisfied with it, right? Hehe, give me 2 chapters to fill this big hole. Chapter 496. The ugly woman changes her face. The clown's face, which was originally relaxed and smiling, immediately changed, returning to the indifferent and distant aloofness that Jin Sichin had seen for the first time. She glanced at Jin Sichin, and her eyes, which were clearly smiling friendly just a moment ago, now revealed an indifference that was superior to everything else. Jin Sichin felt extremely timid and subconsciously wanted to retreat. But after a lightning struggle in his mind, he just clenched his hands under the table and maintained his previous posture without moving. After surfing the internet for several months, the clown was no longer the Ultraman she used to be. She could understand the contents of the documents, but the more she read, the uglier her face became. While the clown was reading the information, Jin Sichin was also looking at her carefully. He had almost used all his skills to finally achieve the achievement of plastic bestie with the clown, but in one day he was back to the days before liberation. The clown's face was now frosted. Although she didn't say anything, he could feel the cold momentum emanating from her and felt that she would overturn the table and kill him at any time. When Lin Fan brought them here to meet the ugly woman, he was probably worried that the ugly woman would be in this state when she came into contact with them. He didn't expect that he didn't encounter it at that time, but he saw it now. Jin Sichin felt that all the cells in his body were screaming at him, telling him that it was dangerous and asking him to leave. But he could only suppress his body instincts, quietly pretending to be unaffected, and continue to wait for the ugly woman's next move. TSK. Jin Sichin felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he would have let Lin Fan come along. The gods are really ruthless. Or this ancient goddess. Jin Sichin kept unfolding these messy thoughts in his mind, trying to suppress the instinctive trembling of his body. Over there, the ugly woman had already closed the folder. Snap. Jin Sichin's body tensed up, and then he deliberately relaxed immediately. Before he could speak, the ugly woman looked up at the giant screen hanging on the wall. Jin Sichin looked over. On the big screen, that was originally used by the ugly woman to watch giant screen movies, countless characters suddenly appeared quickly, and then various pictures popped up like flashes. There was so much content and the screen was refreshed so fast that Jin Sichin was overwhelmed. But he still saw the familiar picture of Grow among the scattered fragments. He turned his head quietly. Sure enough, the ugly woman's hair was already connected to the world tree. In this way, all the data related to Grow in the world was collected by her, which was much more complete than the information of the Bureau of Special Affairs and even the Space Agency. Jin Sichin looked at the various information that kept flashing on the screen. He was not sure whether the ugly woman really saw it clearly, but the ugly woman's increasingly ugly face made him feel flustered. Yes, the psychology master Jin Sichin felt flustered. In the silent cave, the various information that kept flashing on the giant screen, and the goddess who seemed to want to kill him at any time, made Jin Sichin shrink involuntarily. His psychological pressure increased dramatically, and he felt that his body was somewhat out of control. He could only break the extremely repressive atmosphere by speaking. "My queen." As soon as the words came out, it was as if a balloon that was about to explode was gently punctured with a small hole, and the pressure slowly leaked out, and Jin Sichin immediately regained control of his body. Even though his heart felt like it was rubbed into his flesh, and he was panicking and lost his direction, fortunately his mind was clear. The content on the screen was blank and returned to a clean black. Jin Sichin's retina could not adapt for a while, and then he heard the cold voice of the ugly woman. "Speak." Jin Sichin turned his head and looked at her, and immediately lowered his head deeply. The ugly woman now was a goddess who looked down on everyone, no longer the good girlfriend before. "We have many questions about Grow." He held down his heart that was about to jump out of his throat, and spoke steadily with all his strength. "The two most important points to confirm at present are whether Grow is a flying vehicle similar to a shuttle, and Grow's speed, how long it will take to reach Lansing. These 2 points, one to determine the nature of Grow, and the other to determine how much time they have to prepare. It is indeed the most urgent." The ugly woman did not answer, and he did not dare to urge her, and continued to keep his head down. The ugly woman's cave had been equipped with central air conditioning for a long time, and the temperature was neither cold nor hot, and the temperature was suitable. But Jin Sichin still felt sweat on his forehead, but fortunately he lowered his head and the ugly woman could not see it. Just when he felt the sweat on his forehead was about to drip down, the ugly woman sneered. "What does it matter if you know when we will arrive?" she said. "Do your preparations have the power to defeat an enemy?" Although her tone was cold and sarcastic, Jin Sichin felt the pressure on his body eased. "My queen." He tried to mobilize his muscles, showing a just right and comfortable smile, and said softly to the ugly woman's cold profile, "Isn't it because we know that you are our backbone, and we ask for your protection?" The ugly woman glanced at him. The delicate and pretty flower boy smiled at her. Thinking that Jin Sichin had been pleasing to her for so long, the ugly woman felt a little soft-hearted. Forget it, why bother with these ants? Jin Sichin was so perceptive that he immediately felt the change in the ugly woman's mood and immediately hit the snake with a stick. After a lot of operations, he finally smoothed the ugly woman's hair. Who gave Grow that name? The ugly woman frowned and complained, but she continued, "It is indeed a flying machine." After the ugly woman's attitude improved, her face also improved. Although she no longer smiled, she was not so gloomy and intimidating. But she was still cold, and it was hard to change for a while. Jin Sichin's heart slipped. Although he had prepared himself mentally before coming here, and had a certain estimate, he was still shocked to get a definite answer from the ugly woman. This camouflage shield is based on the same principle as the shuttle. The ugly woman continued. As for whether it is stronger than the shuttle, from the information you have collected so far, there is not much useful information, so it is hard to say. In the ugly woman's opinion, the camouflage shield is a relatively basic technology, and it is hard to judge anything just by looking at this point. But from the current data, Grow is much larger than the shuttle. Jin Sichin sorted out his thoughts. and continued to ask, does the larger size mean it is more powerful? Since it is something flying in space, there must be limitations on things like flight power. Grow is so big, yet it can pass through the Kuiper belt safely. They will inevitably associate its size with technological strength. That may not be the case. The ugly woman crossed her legs. I don't know what Grow is like, but the shuttle came down from the newer spacecraft. Even though it is not big, its strength should not be underestimated. In other words, the shuttle's technological strength may far exceed Grow. Jin Sichin narrowed his eyes and asked, my queen, in addition to the transportation function, does the shuttle have other functions? I mean in terms of combat? Several fighter planes were found in the shuttle, and the instruction manual also mentioned the weapon system, which should be capable of combat. Sure enough, the ugly woman nodded and said, of course. Now all your technological combat strength combined is not as good as a shuttle. After thinking about it, she reluctantly made a patch, except for that damn girl. Jin Sichin thought, I knew it. Smiling, she asked again, Empress, you know we are not that strong. Can we make the shuttle? You want to eat shit? The ugly woman looked at Jin Sichin coldly. The shuttle was left to me by the goddess Nuwa for emergency use. Ask the ugly woman to patch it up, and it will be done quickly. Chapter 497 Global Boundary. What is the shuttle? It is a way out for Envy Chow, which Nuwa left for her. It is so that, if she cannot defend Langsing one day, she can take it to find her own hope. No matter from the practical value or commemorative significance, Envy Chow will not give it away easily. Not to mention using the shuttle to resist foreign enemies. If it is broken, then her last connection with Nuwa will be cut off. Absolutely not. Envy Chow sleeps more than she wakes up, and she does not have any deep feelings for the people and things on Langsing. If she had not been sealed by accident, and slept for thousands of years, resulting in the duty entrusted to her by Nuwa, guarding Langsing has not been truly implemented so far, Envy Chow would have run away long ago. Langsing is no longer the Langsing she is familiar with, and all the familiar people have died, which is equivalent to a completely unfamiliar planet. The annihilation of a planet is not important to Envy Chow at all. The important thing is that she has never started Nuwa's entrustment. If she meets Nuwa again and asks how is your work going, Envy Chow will be embarrassed to answer. As the son of God who was entrusted with an important task by Nuwa, and the son of God that Nuwa loved the most, Envy Chow absolutely could not give up like this. It was out of this sense of responsibility that she decided to continue her work. Guard it. What else can she do? Anyway, she has a long life, so it doesn't matter if it's a few thousand years later. She can afford the delay. But she can guard Langsing, and she can smuggle some high tech to accelerate technological development. But she wants to use the shuttle to resist foreign forces? No. The coldness in Envy Chow's eyes was like substance, shooting directly at Jin Sichin. He quickly lowered his eyes to avoid it, and found words to make up for it. Empress, please calm down first. How can we really bear to take out the shuttle to resist the enemy? We can't wait for the treasure. The high tech inside. Our researchers are amazed again and again. This is the truth. 800 Those people couldn't close their mouths after entering the shuttle, and they wished they could stay in it for 24 hours without coming out. The advanced technology of the fault is like the ancient people seeing airplanes and cars. They don't know how powerful it is, but they can't help but kneel down and worship it. A bunch of old men and old ladies took the lead, holding the instruction manual and comparing it with the real thing. Their enthusiasm for learning was even stronger than that of senior high school students. They really couldn't bear to use the shuttle to fight against Grow. But what else could they do? According to the ugly woman, Grow was at least at the same level as the shuttle. Apart from the shuttle, what else on Langsing could fight against Grow? Jin Sichin's brain raced, and when he saw the ugly woman's expression ease a little, he sighed secretly and continued. But you also know our strength. Isn't this just desperate? I think this shuttle was left by Nuwa after all, so it's easy to fight against Grow. I don't know if it's easy or not, but don't even think about it. The ugly woman waved her hand and directly suppressed Jin Sichin's next words. Jin Sichin's mind was working quickly, and when he saw the ugly woman turned around, his face quickly put on a sad and helpless expression. Don't think I'm unkind. The ugly woman finally explained. This thing itself is difficult to operate. Let's not talk about other things, just say that who among you can drive the shuttle? Jin Sichin joked. This is a practical problem. They have been studying the shuttle recently. The shuttle driving training has indeed started, but how can it be so fast? 800 rushed to work overtime to build a shuttle driving simulation system, which has taken shape. The personnel selection has just been confirmed. Where can people drive the shuttle? If you really want to be able to operate it proficiently, it will not be done in 10 days or half a month. Jin Sichin glanced at the ugly woman secretly. Don't look at me. The ugly woman sneered. Don't say that I have to guard the tree and can't leave. If I really get on the shuttle, I will just leave. Who has the patience to help you fight? How can that be possible? Exclamation mark. If the ugly woman really takes the shuttle and walks away, they will be really miserable. Let her continue to guard the tree. Besides, have you ever thought about how to get the shuttle out? The ugly woman hit Jin Sichin again with a backhand. The shuttle is now more than 10 kilometers underground. Even if there are mountains and forests above, it can be directly excavated, but it is also a big project. It's not like drilling an oil well. A pile driver can drill through it, and oil will come out. It has to be opened wider, otherwise the shuttle can't get out. And there is magma under the shuttle. Once the cave is opened, it may change the inherent pressure at that location. Will the magma erupt? Will they artificially create an active volcanic crater? Jin Sichin has no experience in geology, and he feels a headache when he thinks about it. So there is no hope for the shuttle? Jin Sichin was sad. Such a big helper can't be used. Okay, the ugly woman saw Jin Sichin suddenly become silent, like a flower suddenly wilted, and finally let go. If it really comes to that, I will take action. Bingo. Jin Sichin raised his head suddenly, and gave the ugly woman an extremely gorgeous smile. The ugly woman was originally the existence of protecting Langsing. When she just woke up, she almost killed Lin Fan. Her ability is obvious. It's just that they have been eating and drinking, and not doing their jobs recently, but they haven't forgotten why they are so concerned about the ugly woman. Isn't it because of her powerful ability? If they can deal with one of the shuttle and the ugly woman, they will have a bottom line. Jin Sichin tried his best to show his gratitude, and his eloquence made the ugly woman very happy. In his heart, he finally settled down, because he finally completed a task. But don't count on me completely. The ugly woman still said a reservation. If you are unlucky, then the thing will arrive within a week, and I can't help you. Why is that? Jin Sichin was puzzled. It's all because of that damn girl. The ugly woman changed her face when she talked about Lin Fan. She cut so much of my hair at the beginning, and it hasn't grown back yet. It can't support the barrier. If you didn't want to kill her at the beginning, would Lin Fan cut your hair? You should blame yourself, right? Jin Sichin complained in his heart, but his face didn't show it at all. With a considerate smile, he followed her and scolded Lin Fan. After the ugly woman calmed down, he continued to ask, your hair is so long now, and the world tree is deeply rooted in every corner of the ground, right? How can you not support the barrier? If I remember correctly, this cave has always been supported by your barrier, right? The ugly woman's hair was long enough. Jin Sichin didn't measure it carefully, but he had never seen anyone with longer hair than hers. Not only long, but also a lot, covering most of the open space in the ugly woman's cave. To be honest, if you didn't know that those were her magic power, who wouldn't find it creepy? Especially these hairs can move by themselves. Don't think about it. The more you think about it, the scarier it is. Yes. The ugly woman answered nonchalantly. The barrier can be opened at any time, but if you want to open a global barrier, you must have a certain strength and durability, and it's not possible now. Global barrier? Jin Sichin was stunned. It's not what he thought, right? Yes, it is to open a complete defensive barrier, to cover the entire Langsing. Yes, this is the ability of the ugly woman, the planet barrier. Doesn't it sound very cool? It is indeed very cool. But can I make things go so smoothly? Hehe. Chapter 498. It's your own fault. Wow, Jin Sichin suddenly didn't know what to say. The ugly woman is indeed an ugly woman. Her barrier is going to cover the entire Langsing. And from her tone, she is not afraid, even if Gro is bombarding outside. Jin Sichin has the urge to hug the ugly woman and kiss her. He also unconsciously looked at her long hair dragging on the ground. At this time, she didn't feel creepy anymore. He wished he could pour some hair growth agent to make her grow longer. It was still the great goddess Nuwa who had foresight and left the ugly woman for them. Jin Sichin thanked her in his heart. Are you sure that your magic power will be fully restored in a week? Jin Sichin was a little overjoyed. 1 week, 7 days, it's very fast. Even if grow is fast, he can't get there in a week. Well, it's about the same. The ugly woman looked back, and the ends of her hair stood up like vines, swaying gently. After seeing this, Jin Sichin's eyes became more gentle. He never thought that there would be a day when he would find these black strips like tentacles so cute. The ugly woman turned back and saw that Jin Sichin's eyes were not right when he was staring at the end of her hair. She stopped shaking her hair and hurriedly lowered it to hide it. She said unhappily, "But I'm afraid you won't be able to wait for that day." Huh? What do you mean you won't be able to wait for that day? Jin Sichin was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Only 7 days. 7 days is a long time. If I were you, I would start praying now. The ugly woman dragged a pillow from the side and hugged it, leaning on the sofa. What do you mean? Jin Sichin felt something was wrong, and his smile faded. Is growth speed very fast? Is it really so fast that it can fly from Neptune to Langsing in a week? He thought about it and hesitated. Jero is at least more than 30 billion kilometers away from us. Even if it is a high-tech spacecraft, no matter how fast it is, there must be a limit, right? The ugly woman stared at him for a while without saying anything. Jin Sichin lowered his head to check himself, but couldn't see anything wrong. I heard that your IQ is considered high among Langsing. The ugly woman frowned and suddenly looked relieved. Then I finally understand why it took you thousands of years to develop to this level. Jin Sichin blinked. Should he show his anger of being offended, or just let it go? Why do you think that Jet? The ugly woman got stuck in the middle of her sentence. Jero. Jin Sichin reminded hurriedly. Who cares? The ugly woman slapped the pillow in frustration. Why do you think his only way of moving in space is to hover and fly? Why do you think the threat comes from his flying speed? What else is it? Jin Sichin was a little confused. He is a great psychologist, but his knowledge other than this is not that wide. The ugly woman sighed and looked at the beautiful man who was still at a loss with a hopeless look. Don't you watch movies? Don't you know there is space jump? Jin Sichin was suddenly startled and opened his mouth for a long time before making a sound. Isn't that fictional? Aren't movies and novels all fictional content? Everyone watches them happily, but no one will take it seriously if it has not been academically proven. Of course, space jump is an application of your existing term. It is easier for you to understand if I use this term directly. Seeing that Jin Sichin was frightened, the ugly woman became more friendly. A camouflaged aircraft itself has the function of jumping. Of course, you don't know this. There is nothing that can be done about the poor technological productivity. Jin Sichin was not feeling well. Then jump. Once the jump is turned on, any distance is within reach. Of course, there is a distance limit, which cannot exceed. I think it is 3,000 light years. The ugly woman said directly 3,000 light years. Jin Sichin took out his mobile phone and wanted to check. No need to check, it's not there. The ugly woman had never seen Jin Sichin so helpless. He was always confident, considerate, and a little arrogant. But now, not there? Jin Sichin held the phone still. Does that mean Gro can jump directly to Langsing? Yes. Jumping itself is also conditional. The ugly woman felt a little uncomfortable when she saw him like that. In addition to the distance limit, there must be enough energy. Of course, such a short distance does not consume much energy. Jin Sichin heard himself swallowing his saliva, and he looked at the ugly woman eagerly. Are there no other restrictions? Unexpectedly, the ugly woman nodded. Yes. Jin Sichin's eyes lit up. If you want to jump accurately, you need to locate the coordinates. You can get these coordinates yourself, or get them from other aircraft. Then Gro should not have our coordinates. Jin Sichin laughed. No, he does. The ugly woman watched the smile on his face disappear little by little. How is it possible? Has it been here before? Or have other spacecrafts been here before? Jin Sichin suddenly had a flash of inspiration, as if he had lost his parents. It was us. Yes, it was you. The ugly woman sighed. You sent him a signal. He was not sure at first, and was looking everywhere in the Kuiper belt. As a result, after you sent the signal, he easily got the location, and came straight here. Jin Sichin's mind was blank. Did they provoke Grow? Lin Fan was also confused. After receiving the news, who sent the signal in the first place? P country. Wang Fengfeng replied listlessly. I knew they were up to no good. Lin Fan curled her lips and cursed. In fact, she also knew that her scolding was unreasonable. H country used to send signals to space frequently, but it just didn't make it in time this time. If they found it first, maybe it would become her fault now. But no matter what, it's better to scold P country than scold herself. For such a big thing, there must be someone to take the blame. The two of them were muttering and cursing, and Wu Yusen came back. How is Jin Sichin? Lin Fan asked. Jin Sichin came back from the ugly woman, and fell ill after reporting. I don't know if he caught a cold, or was under too much mental pressure, but he suddenly had a high fever. Lin Fan wanted to go see him, but he refused to visit, so she had to give up. After Wu Yusen knew about it, she volunteered to visit the patient on her behalf. Lin Fan ran to exchange the latest news with Wang Fengfeng, and then cursed P country to vent her anger. It's okay, I was just scared by the ugly woman, and the results of the investigation were not very good, so I was nervous and relaxed, which caused the psychological gap. The fever has begun to subside, and it will be fine in 2 days. Wu Yusen shamelessly broke in to visit the patient, and naturally he would not cover up for Jin Sichin. No wonder he doesn't let people visit. Is it because he thinks it's embarrassing? Wang Fengfeng sighed. What's embarrassing? Lin Fan sighed. I was really afraid that they couldn't handle the ugly woman and something would happen. I didn't expect that after so long. I was only scared once. Not bad. That's right. Wang Fengfeng nodded. That's the ugly woman. I didn't dare to go. Jin Sichin is still brave. The Special Affairs Office reported the situation to the upper level immediately, and the upper level responded quickly. The entire military was mobilized. In terms of civil affairs, the grain storage and material department were also transporting materials to the shelter. The notice of a new round of evacuation drills has begun again, and there has been another wave of condemnation on the internet. Jin Sichin hasn't recovered yet, and Lin Fan's phone has received a new text message. The Xianting has discovered an unknown magnetic field near the moon. Here it comes. It's finally starting, although it's late. Old Huo once said that it's not known whether the exploration of alien civilizations is good or bad. Well, that's probably what he meant. So, don't send random messages to people you don't know the situation with. It's over if you attract bad guys. Chapter 499. The Heavenly Palace is about to disintegrate. What is space jump? Simply put, it is when energy distorts space and makes two locations that were originally far apart overlap at one point. The space generated in the middle is defined as multi-dimensional space. It is said that it can connect countless plane channels, and when passing through multi-dimensional space, there is no time effect. This special space structure is called a wormhole by researchers on Langsing, also known as a space-time hole. The concept of wormholes was proposed a long time ago, but it has never been confirmed, and remains only a hypothesis. The process of teleporting through wormholes is also called space jump. Space jump can speed up the process of space travel, but it usually only appears in fictional works such as movies or novels as a reserved item in the science fiction classification. Now, Grow appears, and the ugly woman personally confirms the real existence of space jump. The hypothesis suddenly shines into reality, causing a large group of old people with eyebrows and beards to be unable to sleep and read various materials overnight. After a lot of confusion, they finally came up with a very possible assumption from the conclusion. When a space jump occurs, the huge energy field will most likely cause changes in the magnetic field and gravity nearby. Lin Fan didn't know how such a speculation came about. After all, those experts couldn't prove it clearly, but she could understand the concepts of space jump and wormhole vividly. Once this hypothesis was proposed, it was immediately submitted to the Space Administration, although it was not confirmed. Under the doubt that it was better to believe it, it was released to the monitoring teams of various spacecraft. Among them was the Xianting, which was still orbiting in the sky. You know, there are at least 800 to 900 various detectors and telescopes launched in the near-Earth orbit of Langsing in recent years. In this case, of course, we must take advantage of all the existing advantages. Now is the time to use technology as a clairvoyant and a super-Earth person. People on the ground still don't know anything, and those who are staring at the sky are already in a mess. Before Lin Fan ran to ZHU Kunjin's office, he called, "Lin, urgent mission." ZHU Kunjin seemed to be running too. Now the personnel and equipment of the Xianting space station need to be evacuated urgently. You have to go up to help. The Xianting space station is the most advanced working spacecraft group, shouldering many space missions. And this time, she issued a timely warning as an observation outpost. The magnetic field changes are getting stronger and stronger, and many small spacecraft have a tendency to deviate from the orbit. No one knows how long it will take for the wormhole to open. Maybe a long time, maybe very quickly. After the wormhole opens, the surrounding space will inevitably be affected. Let's not talk about whether the Xianting will be pulled over by the changing gravity. Once GRO comes out of the wormhole, these spacecraft floating in orbit will inevitably become the first contact. And the space station, because it is a combined spacecraft, its huge size is more likely to attract attention, becoming a veritable target and suffering a devastating blow. Let's not talk about the money. There are still 3 living astronauts on the Xianting. I won't go into details about how much manpower, material resources and resources it takes to train a qualified astronaut. Their life on the Celestial Palace was not as comfortable as people on the ground thought. Instead, it was very hard, and they were working hard for the development of aerospace. Once GRO launched an attack on them, although no one knew what it would be, it was obvious that the astronauts, who had to hold the handles, to control their bodies even to stand upright in the sky station, would have no power to fight back. The space agency was reluctant to part with its own people and the equipment it had worked so hard to send up, so an emergency report was sent directly to the Taiwan Affairs Office. The old man wrote with a big stroke. Agreed. Send someone back immediately. This person, of course, refers to Lin Fan. Lin Fan turned around and prepared to go back, to change into combat clothes. When will I go up? Where will I go from? Although it was not the first time she went up, she was more serious about the current situation than the first time. After all, GRO was still eyeing them covetously, and the tension of the enemy at the gates came out unconsciously. It will be later. Just go from the station. ZHU Kunjin probably found a place to stop, and there was no sound of running on the phone. There are still some tasks to be completed in the Heavenly Palace. Try to bring back everything you can, but you have to make a few more trips. It's not hard. Lin Fan slowed down his pace and frowned. Won't the Heavenly Palace be withdrawn in its entirety? With Xingqian's ability, it is not a problem to carry the space capsule down in several batches. The route is ready. Lin Fan only needs to control the speed of the manned trip. It can't be all down. There are some civilian equipment inside. Removing it will affect the normal order of life. ZHU Kunjin explained in a deep voice. The communication system and the sky system are inseparable from daily life. They can't be withdrawn just like that. It's impossible for Langsing to be in chaos before the aliens come. There are still some space experiments. If we withdraw them now, our efforts will be in vain. ZHU Kunjin added, after the personnel and equipment are evacuated, the remaining space station will be disintegrated and dispersed into small cabins. It will not be so conspicuous, and the possibility of being hit will be less. It will be disintegrated. Lin Fan was stunned. The space station that was built with great difficulty will be disintegrated like this? It's a bit of a pity. But think about it. This is the only way to preserve the aviation cabins to the greatest extent. Breaking the hull into pieces and hiding them in many aircraft, in GRO's view, is like a group of bees. It is impossible for it to be shot down one by one, right? If luck is good, these aviation cabins can even be preserved to the end and continue to provide scientific and technological support to the ground. What about the International Space Station? Lin Fan couldn't help but think of another behemoth hanging in the air. I don't know about this. I think country P should also have corresponding measures. They are just bad, not that stupid. ZHU Kunjan scratched his chin and thought, after all, the astronauts have to be evacuated, right? However, the astronauts on the International Space Station belong to many countries, so it is estimated that there will be some wrangling in the evacuation. In addition, they do not have the cheating artifact Xingqian, so it is conceivable that they will waste time. But there is no way, and country H will not let go of the past and blow up Xingqian to help others. At most, I can only pray silently in my heart, hoping that they are safe. The magnetic field changes are still intensifying. The finishing work on the space station is also continuing. Because the compartments will be disassembled in the later stage, the astronauts will not only transfer the items that need to be taken away to the evacuated compartments, but also have to conduct the last inspection of the compartments to be stranded. They work continuously without stopping, completely ignoring the accumulation of physical fatigue. Anyway, Xingqian will come to pick them up, and they are no longer worried about the road. The only thing is to quickly deal with these things in the sky. Xingqian can go to the sky from anywhere, so the space administration spared her the hard work of running back and forth, and let her set off directly on the spot. There is an emergency passage for special matters, and the exit is on the top of an undeveloped mountain in Gao. At 11 o'clock in the evening, the shunting was completed. Lin Fan was already ready, and under the guidance of John Woo, they came to the emergency passage. John Woo personally helped her adjust the headphones and eyepieces, said be careful, and watched her leave with a burning gaze. I think, with the current technology, if there are spaceships in the sky, it is not certain whether they can be defeated or not. At least they can be discovered. It's not a joke to send so many telescopes up there. So I think, in the movies, the spaceships are pressing down on the top of people's heads, and no one knows, unless they are hiding on purpose. Otherwise it is impossible that there is no trace at all. But such a high-level civilization is unlikely to care about low-end civilizations, so it is impossible to hide their tracks. Well, I still hope they don't come. Let's grow slowly. Chapter 500, Fear from the Unknown. There is a square rail car in the emergency passage. It is surrounded by transparent glass and has metal covers on the top and bottom. It is somewhat like the sightseeing car in the river tunnel in Gao. Enter the car according to the instructions, verify the fingerprint, and then the door closes and slides quickly. Lin Fan was caught off guard and his body shook for a while, but he barely managed to stabilize. The speed was so fast that it felt like he was racing at high speed. The light in the car shone through the transparent glass on the metal passage outside. The changing light and shadow really had that kind of high-tech flavor. The rail car was parallel for a long time and then began to move upward. At first, the angle was gentle, and then it went straight up and down, not slower than the high-speed elevator in the Pearl Tower. Lin Fan felt a hysteresis of gravity in her body, which was not very comfortable, but she could still bear it. The whole journey took only 10 minutes, and she saw the night sky of Gao. Under the numerous neon lights, the stars were almost invisible in the dark night. At this time, there was no time to appreciate them. After Lin Fan stepped out of the car, he directly turned into a star and rushed into the sky with a whoosh. Mom, look. A meteor. A child in Gao City pointed at the fleeting light in the sky and shouted. The mother looked up. The dark night sky was illuminated by the colorful neon lights. There was no meteor at all. She smiled and squatted down, touching the child's head. Baby, if you want to see a meteor, Mom will take you to the planetarium tomorrow. The child lay on his mother's shoulder, looking at the direction where the meteor flew away, and for the first time he had a deep doubt about his cognition. Going to the sky was a piece of cake for Lin Fan. When she arrived at the Xianting space station, she couldn't help but look again and again near the moon. But no matter how good her eyesight was, she couldn't see anything in the pitch black space. The astronauts were already ready in the return capsule. After Lin Fan arrived, she confirmed that all indicators were fine, and the return capsule automatically detached from the space station. She didn't have time to care about anything else, so she held the space capsule with both hands and pushed it towards Lansing. She was also familiar with carrying things to and from Lansing, but this time, with 3 lives in her hands, Lin Fan was extra cautious. She pushed back according to the speed limit given by the ground, and talked to the astronauts in the cabin about comfort from time to time, and adjusted the speed at any time. When the gravity became stronger and the space capsule fell into the atmosphere, she adjusted the angle again, lifted the space capsule above her head, and she herself supported it from below, suppressing the falling speed, and slowly descended. The astronauts in the cabin hardly felt any obvious discomfort, and it felt like a plane landing, very easy. This unexpected evacuation experience can be said to be a blessing from Xingchen. There was already a group of staff waiting on the ground. The space capsule landed, and before the astronauts could leave the cabin, Xingchen flew up again without stopping. After years of construction, the Xianting has a total of 6 large and small space capsules. This time, 3 space capsules will be withdrawn, leaving 2 experimental cabins and a core cabin in space. After disintegration, Xingchen will be needed to push them to different orbits, separated from each other. Time is tight and the task is heavy. Lin Fan wants to complete it as soon as possible, while he is still able. After all, they would not be notified in advance when the wormhole would open. The cargo cabin without people was relatively convenient to transport. Even so, when all 3 cabins landed, the sun had already risen. Lin Fan felt that she had not used up all her strength, but she felt a little tired. To be on the safe side, she took off her armor and rested. Of course, she couldn't avoid a healthy meal. Wu Yusen knew that her mission had come to an end, so he called her via video to show his concern, and the two took the opportunity to chat for a while. Is it not possible to announce the news now? Lin Fan leaned back on the soft sofa chair with a puffy mouth, and all kinds of high-calorie foods were spread in front of her. The staff who came to take care of her had a light in their eyes when they looked at her and quietly helped to arrange the food, as if they didn't exist. Yeah. There is no way to announce it. Wu Yusen knew that she had consumed a lot of food when he saw her eating. You can't say that there is a suspected alien spacecraft about to attack Langsing. Listen to this title. Is it reliable? Lin Fan rolled her eyes. Half of the space station has been evacuated, and ordinary people still don't know anything. But what Wu Yusen said was also true. Their news was uncertain at present. They couldn't announce it, and they couldn't announce it. But then again, when Gro really succeeded in jumping and reached the edge of the moon, they confirmed the news and announced it then. It would be too late, right? Forget it. This was not something she should consider. Lin Fan waved away the meaningless thoughts in her head and continued to chat with Wu Yusen to relax. When I went up, I looked around and didn't find the so-called wormhole. Maybe it can't be seen before the channel is really opened. They measured it based on data fluctuations. How can the naked eye see the changes in the magnetic field? Wu Yusen laughed. The eyesight of the stars is good, but they can't emit infrared rays to generate the function of perspective eyes. You think too much. Lin Fan rolled his eyes coldly. Why don't you make a titanium alloy eye that emits some light waves, and I can scan a piece when I turn my head? Ha 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 ha, what you said. Wu Yusen's hearty laughter came, which made Lin Fan's originally tense mood relieved a little. Although the Mecha situation itself is quite outrageous, I still try to imagine it as a human being. Lin Fan muttered unwillingly, although it's a bit self-deceiving. How are you deceiving yourself? How come you are not a human being? Wu Yusen interrupted her unhappily. Who dares to say that you are not a human being? I will bring him to the Special Affairs office to see what it means to be shallow-minded. Lin Fan chuckled. There are all kinds of strange people in the Special Affairs office, and she, wearing a mecha, does not seem so strange among them. After laughing for a while, she suddenly stopped. Wu Yusen saw that she had no expression on her face and stopped eating, so he asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Fan lowered her head without raising her eyes, and her voice trembled slightly. What do you think? What kind of alien is Glory? Without waiting for Wu Yusen to answer, she raised her head slightly and looked at the food on the table. Do you think he is like me? Lin Fan didn't know much about aliens. The only two she knew were a female clown and herself. The ugly woman didn't know Gro, so theoretically they were not of the same species. Then the only one left was herself. Although she didn't know why she turned into Xingchen, she was so weak that she could turn into a mecha. Could it be that the people on the alien spaceship were not as good as herself who could breathe even when walking? Lin Fan never said it, but she was not at ease at all. Moreover, since Xingqian appeared, the green turtle also appeared, and there was an X0-112 who didn't know how to use it to turn people into mechas. Is it possible that Gro came for them? The spaceship was full of mecha aliens like Xingqian. Lin Fan thought about this possibility countless times and rejected it countless times. But after thinking about it, this fear finally prevailed. She was still afraid when she was unmatched. What should she do if she was no longer the only one and no longer an omnipotent and powerful existence? Lin Fan started to be afraid before she even thought about whether she could win or not. She felt ashamed. What would you feel when you find that alien spaceships are approaching and the world may end? Anyway, I will be afraid. I don't think anyone is not afraid. My protagonist is a small person who grows up slowly. Although she has gone through many things and become a great woman, she still feels uneasy in the face of this situation, uncertainty about the future, and speculation about the other party's strength. I think this is a normal emotion. The people in this article are not big shots. They have their own emotions and thoughts. They are happy, afraid, betrayed, robbed, stupid, and smart. I hope everyone likes this kind of characterization. By the way, it's chapter 500. Haha, there is a milestone. Well, when will I finish writing? The fight hasn't even started yet. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.